Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Market Open. It is Friday, June 20th. We are here after a one-day break in the stock market. Friday is here. We've got a lot to talk about, lots of different headlines that happened over the past 24 hours. We do have a market to open in about 40 minutes. And so far in the pre-markets, we are indeed green. Pretty nicely green, to be honest, across the board. A lot of different names that are getting some momentum. And hopefully we have a green close because it feels like overall, like the entire week has been relatively green. We've had obviously some hiccups across the board with Iran and Israel. We have some new updates on that, but the market broadly has not cared, right? From a, I guess, stock price perspective, we have not seen the types of downside moves other than like a 1% move on the S&P 500 2 days ago that you would expect. And that's because the market has been pretty resilient. Like it's been since the whole tariff debacle, we have had a resilient market, and hopefully we can continue that today. But we're going to see how this ends up playing out. Tesla Robotaxi news. Got some updates. It looks like Robotaxi is officially happening based on the official invites they sent out today to a variety of different Tesla influencers. So June 22nd is going to be the first day that the influencers get a chance to like ride in the Robotaxi. So that will be happening. Tesla stock up right here in the pre-markets, and that's going to be very beneficial. Circle is up another 15% in the pre-markets. I did some research on Circle over the past couple of days. We'll talk about it. Look, I can understand why people are buying it. I wouldn't chase it here, but I get it. And I mean, if people want to go super risk on, then I guess that's what they're going to do. Circle right here, $234 in the pre-markets. A little aggressive, but nonetheless, there you go. 234 up 17. I was up 10%. Now it's up 17%. There you go. It closed at 199. It was at 207 on Friday in the after hours. Now it's at 234 on Wednesday. So you got Circle right there. That's green. Palantir's up a little bit. Robinhood 78.47. Got some new updates on that. We'll talk about it. Hims is up 2% in the pre-market. Oscar Health up 13%. We'll talk more about that. I did a deep dive last night with Steve, Chris, and Ronnie, who's been in the name for basically the past year now. And I hope that was a good episode for everyone to get a better understanding of this name. That one getting some momentum. S&P 500 up about 0.3. Bitcoin's up a little bit. Rivian's up. ASTS is at 46, new all-time high. I mean, it's one of those Fridays that could be a all-time high across the board on a variety of different names Friday. But it's also one of those Fridays that we'll talk about that could be getting people to buy in or to sell out of positions only for them to go the opposite direction because it is quad witching day, which we'll talk more about in a bit. But $6.5 trillion of options tied to equities, equity index options, ETF options, and single stock options are going to be expiring today. So we'll be talking about that today later and the implication of what that could have on the broader markets. All right, we are back. First of all, what did everyone do yesterday? Because I thought I was going to be super productive yesterday, and I did a Farzad podcast, so that was productive. I did that with him. I had a meeting for something else. That was productive. The rest of the day, I slept. I just completely slept. So that was my Thursday off from the market. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. TJ, what's up? We got TJ in the chat. Andy, what's up? I actually worked. Erwin said a work event for my boss's boss's boss. Okay, you probably didn't want to be there, but you had to be there. Erwin, what's up? Thanks for being here. Dougie is on vacation, enjoying his time. Doug, thanks for being here. Matthew, what's up? Robert, Lords did some laundry. You know, I actually did do some laundry yesterday. I guess that was productive. That counts as, doesn't it feel so productive when you finish laundry? I've been doing my laundry since I was like in third grade. Like my mom taught me how to do laundry. And then since then, it's been like 20 years. I've been doing my laundry every single time by myself, but it always feels so productive once you're able to get the job done. Chris James, what's up? Manveer, what's up? Good morning. Yard work, back work. Yeah, yard work legitimately hurts my back every time I do it as well. Like my mom my mom gardens all the time. And whenever she asks me to help garden her or to help with the garden, yeah, I walk out and my back hurts a lot. But we grow like fresh cucumbers and stuff. So that's very nice. Greg, what's up? Good morning. Deepu, Benny, Inbound, Alex Music. Thank you all for being here. Jasmine, what's up? Laundry and spend time reading. I love it. Makes sense. Brian says, can we get a fake fireplace for his bricks? Fireside chats with a mitt. It's a good idea for the new apartment. It's a good idea. Fireside chat with a fake fireside fireplace. That's not the worst idea in the world. All right, so let's get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I hope everyone got some time to just relax yesterday. One thing I did notice is that it was nice to kind of have a day off and just chill out and just like actually relax and not focus on anything. I tried to watch Netflix yesterday, but then I got bored, so I didn't end up watching. Like I was watching, I put on something on Netflix that I thought I would like, and then I just ended up falling asleep. So I think on the days off, quite frankly, like sleeping circle, by the way, 18% right now is kind of the move. But yeah, I did enjoy just like having some time. Oh, one thing that did happen yesterday. Let me just share this real quick. I went to my local bagel spot. You know, I didn't even know I had a local bagel spot, or like 2 weeks ago, I was just driving around. I was like, bagel shop. I was like, let me try this spot. And it was a great bagel spot. It's incredible. It's called Manhattan Bagel. Is that a chain? Manhattan Bagel. I feel like that's a chain. But yeah, it is a chain. There's a bunch of the. Well, okay, so I guess it's on my local spot because it's near me. But Manhattan Bagel. So take a look at this. I'm at the local bagel shop, right? I pay for the bagel with the Hood Gold Card, and the cashier recognizes this Robinhood, and then he starts asking, "Hey, do you invest in the stock market?" And I'm like, yeah. And I ask him if he invests, and he says, I cannot make this up. People thought I'm making this story up. Dude, I can't make this up. He says, yes, my biggest holding is a company named Palantir. And I just smile. And I'm like, oh, so when did you buy Palantir? And he was like, oh, I bought it at $20. My friend told me to buy it. He's actually from Jordan. And he said his friend told him to buy it after seeing some of the work they do in a bank. And then he takes out his Robinhood account and shows me that he's up 500% all time on Palantir. So it was pretty cool because I was like, yeah, I know a little bit about the company. And so it's just, Palantir's changed so many lives. And for people saying, well, how come he didn't know who you are? It's because the world is big. Not everyone knows everyone on YouTube creating content. I don't think the guy watches, stock market content religiously or anything like that. But he is invested in Palantir, is still holding at this 140 price. He's not selling. And it's just incredible because, random people, regular people across the world took a chance on this company a year ago for many of us, 3-4 years ago. And it's worked out. So that was a pretty cool experience yesterday. That was actually a pretty cool experience. But outside of that, yeah, I fell asleep. And that's pretty much it. All right, cool. Let's get started again. Son, this is How I Met Your Father. Oh my gosh. How'd you get a gold card? I got a gold card back in December. They've started to give it to a lot more people. Like a lot of people before that Robinhood demo on Wednesday were posting on Twitter that they got the new gold card. So I think they're unveiling it to a lot of people. Also, by the way, the 2% transfer is back. 2% on your IRA, 1% on your brokerage. My uncle has been waiting for this for a while. So if you are on Schwab, Fidelity, or any of these other platforms and you want to come to Hood by July 7th, so the next 2 weeks, you have a chance to get 1% on your money. If you have $1 million, they'll give you $10,000 to come to Robinhood. And if you have $1 million in your Roth IRA, they'll give you $20,000 to come over to Robinhood. So definitely, if anyone's been waiting for this to take advantage of it, it is now live. I have a couple people that I know personally that have been waiting for a long time for this to come back. And now it's back. So there you go. All right, cool. So let's get started. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I think the first thing we'll get through real quick, and then we'll get into Tessie, is stock options. So today is quad witching day. Quad witching happens 4 times a year. The third Friday of June is one of those days in the year. $6.5 trillion of options are going to be expiring. This one could get a little wonky. Now, last time we had quad witching back in March, I believe, nothing really crazy happened. The market kind of just was a regular day in the market and there wasn't anything too dramatic. However, we got a lot of stocks that are going up, a lot of stocks that are going down. There's a variety of different names. There's a variety of different headlines that are affecting different stocks. So I wouldn't be too surprised if throughout the day you have tons of different calls that go in the money, out of the money, different puts that you didn't think would go in the money that start to get in the money, just based on market makers trying to figure out how to navigate this 6.5 trillion of equities that are expiring. So these are people that could have bought calls or sold puts a year ago for June 20th. And today is June 20th. It's just one of those days where you have all these things expiring at the same time. And that could be something that keeps stock prices relatively wonky throughout the day. So you got a lot of stuff that's up in the pre-market right now. That stuff might have to go down based on how market makers are controlling it. But there might be so much momentum that even if the market makers are saying, hey, we're trying to push this down, it doesn't have the ability to go down because there's just too much buying pressure. And so a lot of different nuanced events could be happening simultaneously across the board on ETFs, index, and single stocks. And that's something we got to watch out for throughout the entire day. So you got 6.5 trillion of equities that are expiring today on June 20th. We're going to get to Tesla in a little bit. However, we do have Chris Waller, who is one of the Fed governors, live right now. Let's see if he gives us anything good about inflation. And maybe if he can tell us that we are getting a rate cut relatively soon.
In that position, and that we could do this and as early as July.
Do you think you could cut rates as early as July?
Well, I think that would be my view, whether the committee would go along with it or not. But
Wow. There you go. He's been a dove for a while, but he's saying, hey, by July, it's time to cut. I don't know if the rest of the committee will allow that, but you got Waller saying, yeah, why not? Why not by July?
I think we are in the position that the data is good. GDP growth is going to be near target, our long run target in the first half of this year. Unemployment's at our long run target. Inflation is running very close to target, yet we're 125 to 150 basis points above where the median long-run neutral policy rate is. So I think we've got room to bring it down, and then we can kind of see what happens with inflation. If it got really bad and people got very nervous, you could just pause. But I think we're in a good spot right now for talking about bringing the rate down.
That's so true. It's like if you cut and it gets really bad, you can pause. He's being very logical here, but the Fed presidents, besides him, especially the 7 out of the 19 that said 0 cuts this year, they're not seeing that at all. They're not seeing the possibility of, hey, what if we cut and then we just pause if it gets really bad? But Waller, being pretty logical here, saying, hey, we can cut because the data's on our side. If it gets bad, we can just pause. They can even hike if they wanted to, but I guess, the rest of the Fed presidents don't necessarily see it eye to eye with him.
Would you want to begin a process of bringing rates down by 125 or 150 basis points now?
No, I think you'd want to start slow and bring them down just to make sure that there's no big surprises, but start the process. That's the key thing. We can start the process of bringing rates down. And then if there's some big shock due to maybe the Middle East conflict, we can pause. We paused back in January. We've been on pause for 6 months to wait and see. And so far, the data has been fine. There hasn't been any reason to, in my view, I don't speak for the committee or the chair, but I don't think we need to wait much longer, because even if the tariffs come in later, the impacts are still the same. It should be a one-off level effect and not cause persistent inflation.
So let's talk about this, I guess, difference of opinion with some on the committee. Obviously, the SCP showed that the forecast showed that 7 members don't want to cut rates at all. What is the urgency right now in your mind to cut interest rates? Why wouldn't you want to just wait and see what happens with tariffs and inflation in the coming months before you started cutting interest rates?
Right. So we've been on pause for 6 months, thinking that there was going to be a big tariff shock to inflation. We haven't seen it. We follow the data. That is what we do. We look at the data, and we should be basing policy based on the data. And as I said, if you look forward to if you think this inflation is going to hit in August or September, it doesn't matter. It's the same impact. It's just a matter of timing. And I've been arguing since a year ago that central banks should be looking through this. This has been debated for 50 years in central banking, and the standard rule of thumb is you look through these types of price shocks. And that's what I think I'm arguing that's what we should do. And so if that's the case, start moving on cutting the policy rate.
How can you be so?
Sounds pretty logical to me. I mean, he's making a very simple argument that says the data is on our side in order to cut. The question becomes if we have the, I guess I would say, energy to just put out the cut and then see what happens. And let it go from there. But again, a lot of the Fed presidents are too scared about all the other different dynamics, in this case, tariffs, that they're still worried about. And Waller's argument right there is really simple. He's like, hey, let's do it and see what happens. It's been 6 months. We haven't cut. We haven't seen the price shock that everyone's been projecting from tariffs. Now, maybe that's going to happen, but we can pause if that happens and then chill out for another 6 months. But that doesn't mean we have to wait and see, while at the same time have interest rates be basically double the rate of inflation and have super core PCE, which is negative for the first time since 2020, and still be as restrictive as we are. Not to mention the 1.2 trillion we're paying on our debt. I mean, at some point, we're going to have to cut. The question is just when. Again, we had FOMC on Wednesday as well. Jay Powell pretty much said nothing. We paused. We didn't cut. We didn't hike. But Jay Powell didn't really say anything during the entire conference. The only thing we got was that he's going to be even more data dependent on what happens with trade deals. Same thing he's been saying for a long time. The Summary of Economic Projections said that we're going to get 2 cuts in 2025, 1 cut in 26, 1 cut in 2027, which makes no sense. That means 4 cuts for the next 3 years. I mean, that's kind of hard to imagine. And Jay Powell himself said, basically, you shouldn't take our rate cut path seriously because anything can change. So even he was just like, yeah, it's probably not going to be the same that we're projecting right now. But in the midst of that, they gave us no clarity on if we're going to get a rate cut anytime soon or not. And so unfortunately, we will have to continue to wait to see how this ends up playing out. One thing that we do have certainty on that we didn't have certainty on for the past couple months now is Robotaxi. So there it is. If anyone got the invite, let me know. I did not get the invite, but if you did, you have been invited to the early access of Tesla's Robotaxi service in Austin, Texas. That is going to be happening on June 22nd in 2 days. And the U.S. national debts just surpassed 37 trillion. That's correct. That happened yesterday, which is kind of wild, but that bad boy is going to 40 trillion in the next couple of years, and we just have to deal with it at this point. But there you go. Robotaxi is officially live. I think this is very exciting. Now, here's the question. Does anyone think this is a sell the news on Tesla, or do you think this is a buy it because the momentum is going to be there? Tesla right here, 327 in the pre-markets. I want to say my gut tells me it's a buy on the news versus a sell. Granted, if this was like at 300, it would be a super buy. At 330, I could definitely see people taking some profits right here. We haven't been able to get above 330 in basically a month, ever since the Elon Trump debacle on Twitter. But I don't know. I mean, like, it's not like this is going to meaningfully create any revenue or profits on the bottom line. This is just like hype for the first time that 10 or 12 of these robotaxis are getting out into the road. Now, if they can start scaling that really quickly, Elon said by the end of 2025, or 2026, it'll be hundreds of thousands of vehicles. So you would imagine there's an S curve, maybe not in the next couple months, but maybe towards the end of the year, early 2026. If that doesn't happen, then this is just not going to bring any money to the bottom line. But if it does, and everyone's underestimating it, and, but granted, it's hard to say that because of all the regulations, the geofencing, like there's still obviously structural hurdles that can make this a money printer. But nonetheless, I think the hype of it alone might be still pretty exciting. On top of that, you got some other Tesla news. They're opening up their first showrooms in India in July. So they are officially coming to India in July by showing up their first showrooms as well. A lot of you, yeah, it's kind of 50-50. I see a lot of sells and a lot of buys in the chat. A lot of sells and a lot of buys. So, I mean, we're going to have to see. I do know, I mean, if you look at the option flow in Tesla, there's been a lot of call options that have been purchased for July, August, based on the idea that Robotaxi will create the momentum that the stock needs to get back into that $400 range. And maybe it does. Question is just going to be if the call buyers are right here or the call sellers, right? And then you got this that happened today as well. So everyone's been waiting for that new affordable model. Remember, Elon and Tesla said by the end of H1 2025, which would be in 10 days, by the end of June, we will have an affordable model that's introduced. I don't know if it's going to happen in the next 10 days, but what you're looking at right here, from what people are assuming, is a smaller Model Y that's been tested at the Fremont factory. And Elon did say it would be a stripped down version of the Model Y, Model 3. It's not going to be like some brand new vehicle. And if they can introduce something like that for 30 grand, 25 grand, I mean, I think that would be a game changer. The question is just if they're going to have the ability to introduce that as well. So that's what you got in the context of Tesla. Let's talk about some movers in the pre-market. We've got Circle and Oscar that are moving. I think we'll do Oscar real quick. There's not much to say about this other than this is now becoming a retail stock that is having a lot of momentum. I did the whole deep dive last night. So if anyone wants to watch out for like the actual thesis, fundamentals, yada, yada, you can go watch that from last night. I think we did a good job trying to analyzing it from multiple perspectives. We also gave a ton of bear cases. So there are obvious bear cases to look at. And I think we went through all those. But the core argument right here is that it's a $5 billion company. If people are comparing it to a mini UNH, then, UNH is $300 billion. Oscar, from the growth expectations that we laid out last night, could grow, 4 or 5% this year and still be aggressively undervalued, just given the dynamics of its balance sheet. Has about $2 billion in cash. And then on top of that, right now they're a growth stock. They're growing at 30%. And their free cash flow margins are also pretty damn incredible. So you got a name that's been relatively disrespected by Wall Street. And the main reason for that is because a lot of their money comes from subsidies towards the ACA. If the ACA were to go away, the Affordable Care Act, because the Republicans have promised every time they've won the House and the Senate that they would end up repealing it. If that were to happen, then that would be not a death blow to Oscar, but that would be really bad for the company. It doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon. I mean, right now, we might be going to war with Iran. So I don't think the House and the Senate are worried about subsidies in the ACA, but nonetheless, that has been the overarching risk. And the other reason the stock hasn't really moved is just because it hasn't really gotten attention. And sometimes, we've seen this happen many times with HIMS, Palantir, Rocket Lab, Hood. Like once the name has a fundamental story behind it and then it gets the attention that it needs to build some momentum, it ends up taking off. And I think Oscar is another example of that going on right now. Now, I did not buy Oscar. I don't know if I'm going to buy Oscar. Quite frankly, I think there is a thesis here. And yes, I do think it's cheap, but I don't know if I really want to establish a meaningful position. If I do, I'll let you guys know. And also, I don't know. I'm not in the mood to add a brand new position of a stock just for pure speculation, because I don't think I've done enough due diligence to be like, yes, this is a winner that I want to keep in my portfolio for a long time. It really would be a swing trade if I speculate on it. It would be almost like me buying something at IPO to try to flip it, which I don't think is horrible right now because the momentum's there. And I do think, unlike a lot of these other names that have run so much, this one is actually cheap. Like, even after this run is nothing compared to the fact that if it does get above 23, 24, you've got kind of blue skies from a TA perspective, and it's a $5 billion company. I mean, realistically, this is not some super, super expensive stock if it gets a ton of momentum. Having said that, it's an insurance name, and I think you just have to know enough about the industry to make it an investment. And I think, selling puts on it is not horrible. If you believe, at 15, 16, it's relatively okay to take a chance on it. Right now, it's at 21. The put premiums are not the worst, especially given there's a lot more liquidity entering the space. But I am just happy that it's another win for retail. I mean, retail has had many names like Oscar this year that have been multi-baggers. And the thing about this, again, is if you're not an Oscar, but you're in another name and Oscar has been taking off, I think one thing that's also important is to protect your mental, because it can become very toxic if you're in a name and another name is mooning, and, you have a fundamental thesis on another name, but that name just isn't taking off the way that Oscar's taking off. Remember, the people that were in Oscar, they also went through that phase where their name wasn't moving, and they had to deal with the pain of just knowing that they're in a good company and they're just waiting for the day that the market, which inevitably always happens, the market finds the undervalued assets and allocates capital to them, because that's just the nature of the market, but it might take time. So I do think you should be a little scared of chasing this name. Having said that, I do think it's cheap, and I wouldn't be surprised if this thing heads to $30. And if it does, then, congrats to everyone who is in Oscar in and of itself. Are you saying SoFi? I mean, yeah, SoFi to an extent, right? SoFi. I mean, if you're in SoFi and you believe in SoFi, and you think eventually SoFi, by the way, up about 2% of the pre-market, so you think it's going to run, the opportunity cost of holding it is what has to be compared to everything else that is running as well. Now, granted, remember, SoFi is up from $7. So if you bought it at the absolute lows, or it got to $4 at one point in 2022, you've done very well. But there are a lot of people that have been holding since $11-12, and it's not really been making that big of a move. Now, granted, in the midst of what I'm saying, the right answer could be to dump the thing that you're in and move on. Like, the right answer doesn't always have to be just hold on because the market will find it. What if you're in the wrong name? What if you're in a name that really isn't as undervalued as you think it is, and that doesn't deserve the market's liquidity as much as you think it is? You might want to dump it and allocate capital somewhere else. But that's when you realize if you have conviction. It's that simple, right? That's when you realize, do you have conviction? Do you have the conviction to actually believe in the name or not believe in the name? And a lot of times it just takes patience. A lot of time, quite frankly, it really, really just takes patience to see how this ends up playing out. Where's Grab in the pre-markets? Grab right here, up about 0.22%. Yeah, I mean, it's like same thing with Grab, right? Like, I have a healthy belief that this one is going to work out, but I don't know when. And quite frankly, right now, it's just about testing your patience. And if you are patient, then you are patient, and you got to believe in it. My only caveat on Grab right here is by the end of the year, if I don't see any major move, that's when I would convert my options to stock, because I just don't want to be on the time pressure of having options versus having stock. But outside of that, these are the dog days of the stock. The people in Oscar went through this. Like, if anything, I hope Oscar is a mental example for everyone who's in a name that's not moving as aggressively. As like, you've got to sometimes go through the pain of it just being flat. And you've got to either add to the position, DCA, or hold on to it and believe that it's going to play out. Like Ronnie, who's on the show yesterday, he bought $100,000 of Oscar back in February at like $14-15. And since then, it's gone up, it's gone down. It went all the way down to 10 when the tariff drama came up, then it went up to 18, then it went right back down to 13. And he held on to it because he fundamentally believed like it was an undervalued name. And now he's up very handsomely on the position. So this is when conviction is really tested. And it's one of those things that matters. Now, granted, moving on from Oscar to Circle, one thing I will say is that it's feeling a little frothy in other parts of the market. Circle right here at $230 in the pre-market. I think Circle is not the craziest stock to buy puts on. Now, what I mean by that is that, again, if you're hedging and buying puts, and hedging is the key word there, meaning you're not just buying puts because you want the puts to go up in value, but rather you're hedging your portfolio. The idea of hedging with Circle is like, you think Circle is so egregiously overvalued in the context of it being a momentum play that if momentum dies down, a lot of your portfolio, if you're in momentum like Robinhood, Hims, Palantir, et cetera, is also probably going to take a bit of a hit. But this one should take a much more dramatic hit than a lot of the other momentum plays, just given its beta is so aggressive. It's up 645%. And those puts would hedge a bit of the losses on your portfolio. If Circle goes to 400-500 and those puts go to zero, you kind of don't care because that means the rest of your portfolio is doing very well because Circle's not going to 400, $500 and Robinhood's staying flat at 78, or Palantir's staying at 140. I mean, you would just imagine that there would be a lot of momentum in the broader market if Circle is able to get that much liquidity. Having said that, is there a world where Circle deserves to be worth about $50 billion? Maybe, just given it's one of the de facto stablecoin providers now, along with Tether. But I don't know if it should be pulled forward this quickly. And I think that's kind of the debate right here on Circle. So if you're in it, congrats. But if you also want to take profits, I don't think anyone would blame you. I don't think anyone would blame you here. And it's just going to be a question to see how Circle plays out. It really has been phenomenal to see that thing. I mean, the bankers priced it at $6 billion. That's how you know bankers, they get things wrong all the time. They priced the IPO at, imagine they priced it at $30 billion or even $15 billion. They would have raised so much more money. They priced it at $6 billion. Stock's worth $50 billion now. Obviously, they underestimated the level of demand that's coming for Circle. And the one risk I have to Circle is that they get all their income from treasury revenue, right? Because they buy short-term T-bonds to peg it 1-to-1 to USDC. So if they get all their money from treasury income, if rates come down, like that is a massive hurdle for them to be able to generate more revenue. And B, from my understanding, 50% of their treasury income goes to Coinbase because they have a massive partnership with Coinbase. So I don't understand how the fundamental story justifies the valuation at all. Granted, there's a lot of other ways to think about it outside of just quantitative metrics, but for whatever reason, people are buying it. And if they're seeing it as the de facto stablecoin provider that's going to overtake Tether, then I guess that's why you have Circle getting a bid the way that it's getting right now. And that's also great for Coinbase, right? Because Coinbase partnered with Circle. Coinbase introduced a new payments platform, Coinbase. There you go, back above $300. This has nothing to do with Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's up about 1.4%. That's nice. But Coinbase really is making some strides to build out new payment processors. They introduced a new credit card. They had a new partnership with Circle. They have the DEX exchange coming out soon. They acquired Derivabit 2 months ago. That acquisition is going to start coming into play in terms of the options market for crypto. There's just a lot of things Coinbase as a company is doing very well. And so I think Coinbase right here getting a bid is not because of Bitcoin, but Bitcoin doing well also helps them on the bottom line. MicroStrategy right here at 373. That's up about 1.27% in the pre-markets as well. Triple V, thank you for being here. Thank you for the $100 super chat. I told you guys that Triple V has a bunch of calls on Hood, sold calls on Hood at 85 and 81. So Robinhood, I mean, it's been an incredible story, 78.50. And by the way, if you don't want to buy the Circles, the Lemonades, the Oscars, all the high-flying movers in the market because you're just afraid of them, the casino that holds all of them is Mr. Robinhood. And Robinhood is not the risk reward that it was before. Obviously, the stock has expanded aggressively. I still think that if Circle does go to 400 or 500, I mean, I think Robinhood's going to continue getting momentum, right? That's my point with the hedge. It's like if Circle really does keep going up, we are in full-on bull market mode. And so the casino that holds all these names, if you want to buy a fundamental business that has a great trajectory and a really good balance sheet and a good growth prospect, but you don't want to take a chance on an Oscar or anything like else or anything, like that, like a Circle, you got Hood just waiting right there. That I think also is not the craziest buy, but it's not the same risk reward that it was, a couple months ago. 78.35 right here on Robinhood. Hopefully we can get to $80. Maybe today, maybe on quad witching day, we actually see a little bit of momentum into the 80s. It seems like it wants to do that. Nvidia as well. It was at 145 last night. Nvidia right here, 145.50 right now. And that's another reason I don't want to buy Oscar, dude. I just rather buy more Hood in Nvidia. Like Nvidia to me this one is feeling more obvious that it's going to be around 160, 170 by the end of the year. And if it's not, whatever, right? I get to have more Nvidia and I get to sell calls against that Nvidia and collect that premium. That is fundamentally de-risked compared to buying a name that I'm buying purely for momentum like an Oscar, even though I think an Oscar is still cheap, right? Oscar right here, 22 in the pre-markets. So there are still some names like Nvidia really hasn't run as aggressively as like a lot of these other names. And so it isn't hard to be able to buy Nvidia here and then just reduce your cost basis by selling some calls against it as well. So that's what we got going on. Thank you, Triple V, again, for the $100 super chat. And again, guys, he has a lot of calls on Hood at 85 and 81. I think I have some calls at 85 and 82, so I'm kind of in the same boat. And I think selling calls right here is not the worst situation at all. Because again, when you're selling calls on Hood, you're forcing it to go above all-time highs for you, right? When you pick those strikes. And if it does, then you can manage the situation unless it completely runs away from those all-time highs, which is possible. But again, it's already up so much that if you're willing to pay that call premium, same thing with Palantir. I mean, I think Triple V had some 150 calls on Palantir expiring either today or next week. whoever paid him that much when it was at 142 or 144 when he wrote them, is it really going to go to 150? I don't know, but he collected a lot of premium because of that. And so I still do think this is a covered call market for the rest of the year as well. Luke, thank you for becoming a channel member. Appreciate it, Luke. Thank you for being here. And thank you for becoming a channel member. Manny, thank you for the $10 super chat. New to investing, all-time highs this morning. I'm up 35%. I've watched most of the market open close shows for a few months. Couldn't have had these gains without your help. Thank you, Manny. Congrats to you, man. All-time highs. I think a lot of people have seen all-time highs on their portfolio, which is, again, just pretty incredible. So congrats to you. Thank you for being here every day. And it is absolutely a community effort for all of us to find some of these names and quite frankly, change our lives. I mean, there are some people in Oscar, dude, I've seen that were loaded up with leaps. They're up like millions of dollars because they bought leaps back in January. And this thing has made the run that people have been waiting for. I mean, when those things happen, it's pretty magical. And I've been lucky enough to experience it with Palantir and Hood. But you also, and I just want to keep stressing this, I had to be patient with both. I couldn't imagine leaving the Palantir store early or leaving the Hood story early because some other name was running. And my fundamental belief on those two companies was taken away or shaken because some other thing was running. And I remember with Hood last year, because I was loaded up with options, it was like, I think I knew their balance sheet better than the CFO knew the balance sheet. I mean, every single day was spent understanding this company, and it ended up working out. That doesn't mean it always has to work out, but that does mean the FOMO of chasing something else is something you just have to protect yourself from, because that might not end up being how it works out. Now, you could also be wrong, and it takes a little bit of luck to be right. But anyone who was right in Oscar also had to go through that pain of just waiting. And if they didn't, they would have missed out on the run that's been happening over the past couple of days. Now, one thing you also have to protect yourself from, and I think that the entire market has to protect ourselves from, is Chamath. So there you go. Chamath put out a poll 2 days ago, and the poll was, should I launch a SPAC? Now, 57,000 people voted, and he said, or 71%, as you can see right there, of the vote said no. This guy, even with seeing this level and a community note of dismay on his necessity to launch a SPAC, then says, I couldn't believe this when I was reading this, bro. I couldn't believe this when I read this. Incredible that almost 58,000 people voted. I hope that everyone that voted no feels seen. Talk about passive aggressive, dude. I hope everyone that voted no feels seen. Now on to business. I got calls from many Wall Street and crypto titans yesterday. They all want in, and their vote matters a lot to me, so I will probably do it. Maybe this time will go better. Who knows? The risks are clear, though. The last time wasn't a success by any means. I will include this poll and the community note in every SEC filing possible. It will make an excellent disclosure about the risks and is short of irony. So what kind of company do you guys want? No crying in the casino. I mean, dude, I couldn't believe when I was reading this. I just could, like, the level of arrogance is insane. The funny thing about this is, and this is where you have to read between the lines. I got calls yesterday from many Wall Street and crypto titans. Guess what? Those are suits. Those are people on the street. Those are people in private equity. Guess why they're calling him? Because they know that Chamath has the ear of retail. They're calling him, and here's how the conversation is going. Hey, Chamath, hey, I got this random private equity company that's like blowing up the balance sheet of KKR. Chamath's like, okay, cool. They're like, hey, you want to dump it on retail? Chamath's like, yeah, let's do it. How much are you going to pay me? They're like, oh, 10% carry. Chamath's like, sure, let's do it. That's a couple $100 million for me. Let's get it done. That's how the conversations are going. So I would be very skeptical of someone like Chamath, who has taken multiple SPACs public. All of them have gone to zero except SoFi. And quite frankly, I don't think that's because of Chamath. I think that's because SoFi is an actually good business, right? Even if the stock hasn't appreciated as much as a lot of other companies, that one has been a legit business. Everything else, Open Door, Virgin Galactic, all this nonsense has gone to zero. The reason those got dumped onto retail is because they didn't want to be in private equity anymore. And, they saw liquidity in retail being quote unquote dumb money that would buy up those names. I think that's exactly what's going to be happening this time as well. I think that's exactly what's going to be happening this time as well. So people are saying it's a top signal or whatever. It just feels like a frothy thing that's happening in the market right now. Tesla right here up about 1.9%. And it's making me feel like, is there that much liquidity out there for Chamath to think that he can dump something new on retail? Because again, what is he going to take public? He's not taking Andro public. He's not taking Stripe public. He's not taking Discord public, Klarna public. He's legitimately going to take some stupid private equity company. We all know there's a bit of a bubble in private equity. We've talked about that for a while. Apollo, KKR, Blackstone's going to give him one of these companies that's going to have some fancy story that's probably losing a crap ton of money. And he's going to go on CNBC, promote it to everyone, and then take it public. And maybe the SPAC works. Maybe it does. But I just think you got to protect yourself in this environment if that's the level of risk that is out there to the point where people are ready. Like, you couldn't do that in 2022. Why? Because that risk wasn't there. You couldn't do that in 2023. Why? Because that risk wasn't there. You couldn't do that in 2024 because still, Tom Lee talked about this a lot. There were so many people that were skeptical of the bull market that we were having, which was actually a good thing for the bulls because you need the other side to be against you, right? To have some level of contrariness, to climb a wall of worry, et cetera, to be able to still have equity prices appreciate. If everyone's like, all right, bring on the SPACs, let's do it. Let's make a lot of money. We know Pompliano is trying to launch a crypto SPAC as well. I mean, to me, it is a little scary. And then questions, hey, is Oscar really going to hold being up 50% in 2 weeks? If you've got stuff like that happening, is Robinhood really going to be able to hold 78? Is Palantir going to hold 140? I mean, these are the questions I ask myself. If Circle, can this thing get to 300 if you've got this level of environment, or can it get there, but then eventually it pops like it did in 2021? And, there are some people left holding the bag. The thing is, though, in the midst of all of this, which sounds kind of bearish, we still have an AI revolution that is real and the earnings are very real. So one scenario I could see happening is that you get a Circle that pops to 300, 350, it gets very bearish or it gets very bubblish, and then boom, it pops, but all that money just goes into the names that are actually producing real earnings because Circle, it's not really significant earnings yet. And that money flows back into an NVIDIA or an Amazon or a Google, which for some somehow Google is still trading at 17 times earnings, with the rest of the market trading the way it is. You got Circle at almost 300 and Google at 173. So it's one of those things that we're going to have to see play out. It's one of those things that we're going to have to see play out over the coming days. All right, we got about 6 minutes until the market opens. Rob, thanks for the $20 super chat. Admit, do you think selling covered calls with a strike price at 170 expiring July 18th is safe? Thanks. Yes, I do. That doesn't mean Palantir can't get to 170 in about, 30 days? But I do think that it's relatively safe. And if it does get to 170, you can easily roll that contract, in my opinion, as well. So I think 170 is decently out of the money for Palantir. There's no earnings coming up. And, 170 would be almost 400 billion market cap. Like, it's a little aggressive to get there. So I think by July 18th, that would not be the worst strike. Omar, thank you for the $5 super chat. Hey, I'm 19 years old with a nearly $20,000 portfolio. I watch your streams every day at work. You have taught me a lot. Truly grateful for your education. Omar, thank you for being here. I was about to say, how do you watch the streams if you're at school? But you're not at school. You're 19 years old, so you're out of school right now. If there's any high schoolers watching the stream, that would be crazy, dude. By the way, there was this high schooler that sold his company to Wix for $80 million. He vibe coded a company called Base 44. It allows you to basically build software with AI, and he sold it to Wix. Wix is a website creation platform for $80 million. The guy's like 15 years old. It's crazy, dude. It is crazy what kids are doing with AI. But it is absolutely incredible. Omar, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And thank you for being here. Ken, thank you for the $10 super chat. My 10-year-old son wants me to send you a super chat. It's summer break and he's learning the stock market. He says hi. Hello to Ken's kid. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the super chat. I deeply, deeply appreciate it. I love that it's a $10 super chat and you're 10 years old. And yeah, dude, happy summer break. I forgot June 20th. It's summer. We are officially starting summer, which is super fun. In my neighborhood, there's a bunch of kids, like parents who have kids. And whenever I'm driving around and I see these kids and they're waiting for the bus or they're getting off the bus, I'm just like, yo, I remember when I would get on the bus and I would go to school, and it was so long ago, but I remember what my life was like, you're just in the grind of going to school, learning things, trying to become a human being, develop in the world. And, now I'm going to be almost 28 years old. So I would say enjoy it, because you don't get that time again to just get on the bus and not have any worries and not have to worry about paying taxes or calling the IRS because they want another $5,000, which for some reason they keep sending me letters that I owe them more money. I'm like, how do I owe you guys even more money? But if you learn about the stock market, then, hopefully paying those taxes will not be an issue. So thank you for the super chat, and enjoy summer break. Thank you for learning about the stock market here as well. All right, we got 3 minutes until the market opens. 78.60 on hoodie, Coinbase 295. Put in the chat if you are buying or selling anything, if you're hedging anything today. It's going to be a wonky day again. $6.5 trillion of options are expiring. So we're going to see a variety of different things play out today in regards to the equity markets. And based on all those options expiring, we'll see kind of how the market decides to show what goes up or what goes down as well. Fire Time, thank you for the 14 super chat. Getting married tomorrow, but can't miss the bell. Dude, that is crazy. That is so awesome. Thank you for being here. We definitely have the bell ready in 2 minutes. And yeah, congrats on getting married. Guys, if I get married on like a weekday, I feel like I'm gonna have to do the market open before the marriage because like, I don't know. I feel like, you know, you can't just miss the market open because we're like, what if something happens in the market just because I'm getting married? Like, I feel like it's kind of selfish, to be honest. So I will try to make sure we do the market open regardless, even if your boy is getting married here. K. Scott Gray, thank you for the $100 super chat. No, you guys do not have to send these many super chats. Thank you for the $100 super chat. Appreciate it. You guys do not have to send these many super chats today, but it means a lot. Thank you for the $100 super chat. I think you're playing a guitar in your profile picture. Is that Metallica? If you're playing some Metallica guitar solos, I would love to hear them as well. So thank you for the super chat. Appreciate you being part of the show. Maritza, thank you for the $10 super chat as well. For my daughter, Sarah, you have helped create an investment account I never had. Maritza, and to your daughter, thank you for being here. Thanks for watching every morning. This is why I like to keep the show kid-friendly, you know? This is why we got a lot of kids that are watching, trying to learn about the stock market, so I'm going to try to keep it kid-friendly every single day. Thank you all for being here. Really means the world. It's been an incredible year. I think we just crossed 81,000 subscribers on YouTube. The growth has been pretty non-linear over the past couple months, and I'm just humbled every single day. And, you know, a lot of you guys sent DMs yesterday saying, hey, the day kind of sucks. I'm at work. I don't have anything to listen to yet. And that really means a lot to me because the fact that you guys use this show as a way to kind of get through the day, whether you're working from home, whether you're working at a physical location, it means a lot to me. Which is why if I get married, you know, one day I need to, you know, the show, if it's on a Monday, you still got to open the market regardless. So we will be here every single day. All right, folks, let's get into it. It is Friday, June 20th. Thank you all for being here. We had a day off yesterday. We are back in action. The stock market is now open. All right, let's get into it. Wake your ass up. Robinhood opens up red on the day, 77.69, down about 0.85%, 77.74. You got a bit of red candle right there on Robinhood. Circle opens up 13%, 14% on the day, 227.5. 227.5 on Circle. That is green. SoFi, 1553. That's up about 1%. Grab, down about 1%, down about 0.72%, 462 right there on Grab. Tessie, 327. That's green. Oscar, 2133. So Oscar did hit 23 last night, or almost 23. I think it hit 2280. That one up about 12.5 right now. It is a bit red from the pre-market, so there's that red candle, but we are at 21.19 right here. Tesla, 329. Tesla's looking like it wants to go for 330. It looks like it's going to hit 330 pretty easily. 329.94, 335 cents away. There you go, 330. 330 on Tessie. 330. Tesla's green. Palantir, 141.78. Palantir is green. That's up another 1.15% on the day. Palantir is green. Where's Marvell? They did have their investor day the other day. Wow, that's up another 2%. That was up 8% last Wednesday. MicroStrategy is up 1.64. Coinbase 308. My goodness, Coinbase. Shout out to the Coinbase bulls today. That's a 25% move in about 48 hours on Coinbase. 309 on Coinbase, up about 4.8%. That's great for Circle as well. MicroStrategy up 1.64. MicroStrategy again at 379. Circles at 228. Oscar 2110. Oscar losing a little bit of steam right here. People are taking some profits. That's normal. If you got an F15, you're probably taking some profits at 21. Question now is if it dips enough back to potentially create a healthy entry point at around 17, 18, or if this one keeps moving. S&P opens up green. S&P opens up green as well. Robinhood slightly going green, 77.96, trying to get right back to 78. MicroStrategy again, 373. Google, 173. That's red. And NVIDIA basically flat on the day again. Palantir's at 141.73. Palantir going for 142, which we have. Yep, there you go, 142. We haven't seen that in about basically a week. I think last Monday is where we got there. Or was it this Monday? It's been a couple days. We're back to 142. AMD, 129.97. AMD up about 3%. SoFi again, 1550. Rocket Lab, where's Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab, 28.27. Rocket Lab was actually at 30 in the German markets yesterday. So Rocket Lab was making a bit of a move. And then ASTS 45.32, that's just down from 46, but we are green on ASTS. Yes, today is witching day. Today is witching day. $6.5 trillion of options are going to be expiring across the entire equity markets. single stock options, futures options, all these different types of options. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of different names either go up or down. By the way, Legend is being a little bit weird right now. Legend is telling me that they're having a little bit of a bug, so the prices might be off. So that's why I'm using Webull right here. But for those using Legend, you might be seeing a little bit of a bug on Robinhood. Visa and MasterCard still selling off? Visa, my goodness, dude. Okay, look, if Visa gets cheap enough, like I had no interest in owning this name, but if it's literally tanking, it's now down 10% because of stable coins. Like if that's what the market thinks is the downfall of Visa, I feel like I would call that bluff and I would take advantage of that. I got to learn more about the company itself and more about stablecoins, but 350 to 336 seems a little 375, my bad. It's 375 to 335, really? Because of stablecoins? Is it really that big of a deal? I think we gotta find that out over the coming months. Arrow is down 13%. All right, this is one of the IPOs that's now taking a major hit. This is one of the IPOs that's taking a major hit. We didn't even talk about Iran, Israel yet, but I have a bunch of updates, so we'll talk about that in a second. But this is an IPO that went public at 10, pumped all the way to 35. Now it's down to 22. So you're seeing a 15% retracement, which I'm not going to lie is healthy because I don't think it deserved to be up 300% for no reason. So you see Arrow going down 15%. That is relatively healthy. I wonder if the same happens for Circle. Circle right here is getting a red candle. It was up 20%. Now it's up 11%. Question is just going to be, what price ultimately becomes the fair price for some of these names. Across the entire board, we're seeing some red candles. ASTS got a red candle, AMD, Palantir, Marvell, etc. Robinhood down about 1.3%. Grab right here, 463. Tessie, 330, still holding on. Tesla did hit 332 at one point. Now it's about to be 331. But still relatively green. VG is flat, 1829. Oscar, are we still at 21? Oscar's at 21, up 12%. Volume is 8 million shares on Oscar. Average volume is 8 million. So it's done its average volume in about 4 minutes of the market open. Who's buying Oscar? Put in the chat if you're buying it. Put in the chat if you're buying it. Again, I think it's cheap personally based on the deep dive I did yesterday. It was an hour and a half of trying to understand the financials. It seems like on paper, relatively cheap. But this is where the name has to prove that it's not just retail hype. This is where the name has to prove that. And Hims proved that it wasn't retail hype. Palantir proved it wasn't retail hype. Rocket Lab proved it wasn't retail hype. Robinhood proved it wasn't retail hype. A lot of these names that are getting the hype, they have to prove that it's just not retail pumping it because that's just unsustainable. Like you need big money coming in. And if it is just retail, then you need retail to buy every dip and hold it aggressively. And retail doesn't always do that, right? We saw in May from all the Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley data that retail was a net seller. They were taking profits. So I think the test now for Oscar will be, do people actually hold on to these names even if they get in them? CoreWeave right here at 170. CoreWeave at 170. Where's UNH? UNH as well, 307. UNH flat on the day. Why is SoFi selling off? Probably with the rest of the market. We're getting some red candles across the board. SoFi is red. Hopefully it holds 15 throughout the day. That's what the most important thing is. But it is red right now. Reddit, 144, right back up 2% like where it was yesterday. Roy says in the chat, Oscar is decent, but it's not Hims. I agree. The growth is nothing like Hims, and neither is the operating leverage, which I think Roy pointed out yesterday on Twitter in his post. Then again, it's a $5 billion company with $2 billion in cash that's growing 30%. So you do have that as the tailwind behind it. And the question is, Hims went from like 6 to 60. Does Oscar, I think at its lows this year, got to like $11. Does Oscar go from 11 to 60? Do we really see that happening? I don't know. Also, the Hims community, there is an Oscars community that is forming, but the Hims community is different, bro. Like that community is like, when you talk about a cult, that is a cult. I don't know if Oscar has the cult yet. I don't know if they they have some passionate people, but when we talk about cult, we talk about people that are consistently educating everyone on the name and really doing the marketing for how good of an opportunity this is. And I don't know if that's as deep yet for Oscar. Circle right here, big red candle from 18% up to 6% up. So that one's getting sold off right here. Where's the makeup companies? Estee Lauder, that's down about 0.5%. Where's Ulta? That's up 0.32. And then Elf, that's down about 1.5. NVIDIA, are we at 145? NVIDIA's at, whoa, we hit 146. Okay, cool. So NVIDIA getting some love. Maybe that money is leaving Circle going to NVIDIA. AMD, wow, 132. AMD heading some love. I don't know if there's any catalyst today for AMD in particular, but 132.05, not bad. I don't think we've hit 132 in Atlanta. Last time it stalled out at 130, right? Or 131.50 on Wednesday. 132 is like a little bit of a blue sky for them. Microsoft, how's Microsoft? Wow, Microsoft all-time highs as well. Okay, so you're getting some of this money rotating into a bit more of a safer part of the market. Microsoft all-time highs. Google is flat on the day. Google, nope, that's green, 173. Where's Meta? Meta, by the way, at 700. Meta tried to buy Ilya's startup. Ilya is the co-founder of OpenAI who left OpenAI to go build a new startup. The startup is worth $32 billion, and Zucks actually tried to buy it. Reports show over the past couple months, but he wasn't able to get the purchase. So he ended up hiring Nat Friedman, who's the former CEO of GitHub, to join Meta. Probably gave him that $100 million bonus that Sam Altman was talking about. So these bonuses on AI leaders coming to Meta, I mean, Zucks looks like he's being ruthless right now with the spend, and we know Zucks can spend. I mean, Zucks he lost $70 billion in 2022 trying to build out the metaverse, which probably is not going to play out. So he has an unlimited balance sheet, and he's ready to deploy capital. The only fear is on Meta is how much is that going to hurt their margins? Because, yeah, CapEx is great. It's amazing. You're spending a lot more money in the ecosystem, but that also means that Meta shareholders have to deal with all that spending. And the question is just, is the growth enough to overcome all the spending as well? So you got Google right there at 173. Where's ABCL? ABCL on the day. That one was up 10% on Wednesday. That's up another 1.3% right now. So that's slightly green as well. Tesla, are we still at 330? Are we down? Oh, it's back down, 328. All right, so that one got hit from 332 to 328 right now. As a Meta shareholder, I don't like it. Yeah, it is just one thing to worry about, or not to worry about, but to keep it on your radar, right? I'll play a clip in a little bit of Sam Altman talking about why he thinks Meta is spending so much. And one of the reasons is because he thinks that people, I mean, this is actually a really logical argument. The argument is people might spend less time on Facebook and they might spend more time on ChatGPT. And so in his opinion, Sam Altman thinks that Meta legitimately thinks that OpenAI is a true competitor because, and when I play the clip, you'll see what he says, but basically people kind of feel shittier about themselves when they're scrolling through Facebook. And most people feel relatively happy or productive when they're talking to ChatGPT. And I haven't thought of that argument before. It's like, yeah, you kind of feel shitty going through like social media and just like seeing other people's lives. And, you know, we've been inundated with other people's perceptions of happiness for the past 20 years on this algorithmic feed. Whereas on ChatGPT, if you're trying to learn about how to sell a covered call and you spend 20 minutes talking with an AI to help you learn more about it, it's like you feel just smarter, you know? And so that could be one of the arguments in terms of the race for attention and time that Meta might feel OpenAI is a deeper competitor. AMD right here, 130, 165 currently right now. Are you buying Hood at 77? Yes, I bought some Hood yesterday in the overnight markets. I think at like 77.50. But again, I'm selling calls against it. So when I buy it, I'm buying it with the understanding that I will generate premium off of it. And because, you know, I've had a position for a long time, I'm just not that worried about buying high. But I also think this is going to be a pretty, I think we get to 6,500 on the S&P. And I think Robin is closer to $90 by the end of the year if that happens. So to me, is it still cheap? It's not as cheap as it was, you know, months ago, but the premiums are amazing. And I want to own Hood for a long time. So I'm just not too afraid of buying it at these levels. I don't think it's a massive bubble where Hood has to go back to 29 unless the whole market collapses. But if that's the case, then, you know, the whole market crashes. If not, then I don't think it's the worst price here. Amit, do you like long calls on Hood? So no, that's what I don't like. I don't like long calls on Hood. So I don't like long calls on anything other than, you know, something that you truly think is super, super undervalued and you think has a chance to double. But could Hood double by next year? Yeah, but I'm not going to bet on that. Like Hood is not $20 anymore. That I think could easily go to 40. Hood is 77. To say it's going to go to 150, it's just a hard bet, you know? So I'd personally be buying stock at these levels. Adobe right here at 381. Oklo not running too much today. That one's flat. First Solar, Enphase, all those names also relatively flat after the 30 to 40% haircuts that they got last week as well. Yeah, when the market's down 5 to 10%, then you start looking at dips, correct? Or then you start looking at leaps when we actually have a 5 to 10% dip, which we just haven't had yet. LEU, that one is up 10% as well. Yeah, Cetrus Energy, another energy name that's getting some love. CEG, Constellation, that's flat on the day. VRT and Vista, those are slightly flat as well. NVIDIA right here at 145. So far, not that many crazy moves. And where's Oscar? Oscar still holding up 14%. Circle still holding up about 8%. Tesla had a nice little pump to 332, right back to 327. Nvidia trying to hold 145. Robinhood down about 1% on the day. Grab is down about 1%, 462. And then Palantir, I think, holding 140. AMD, though, I think did have a pretty good move. Palantir now back below 140, 139. 139 right here on Palantir. Is it because of the Fed? Well, I think some of these moves are probably because of Waller being rather dovish this morning. But the problem is, bro, 7 out of the 19 participants, almost half the participants saying that they don't want a rate cut this year was a bit surprising. And I don't think it's going to lead to not getting a rate cut, but it definitely leads towards more of a hawkish Fed. And either they're seeing something that we're not seeing, or they're being just stubborn. And I think it's honestly more stubborn than not. But the other thing is, remember, J-Powell's gone by May of next year. So let's say we really only cut rates twice for the next 18 months. Whoever Trump's picks after J-Powell is going to be relatively friendly, I would imagine, towards the concept of cutting rates, which could turn 2026 into a broader bull market, even though it's a midterm year and it's the 4th year of this kind of bull run we've been having. So if we get lower rates, I mean, that's good for a lot of these different growth stocks. And so it does seem like even if J-Powell doesn't want to be that dovish with rate cuts, by 2026, we're going to get them regardless. CoreWeave right here on the day, that's up another 4%. There you go. CoreWeave 177, all-time highs on CoreWeave just now. You're looking at it right now. The 52-week high was 176.75. We are at 178, folks, on CoreWeave. Just incredible. Then you got Reddit right here trying to get to 150, 147 right now. Lemonade deep dive will be happening next week. Lemonade deep dive will be happening next week on Thursday. I already have it set up. So Lemonade, I think at this point we have enough stocks to do a deep dive on every Thursday. I said I was going to do it every other Thursday, but it might become one of those series where we literally do it every Thursday. So if there's enough names that people are interested in, maybe we do 52 deep dives a year. Maybe we do that. So yeah, Lemonade will be next week. And then after that, I want to do Circle and try to get a little bit more of an understanding of the stablecoin world. Reddit 147, ASTS 46. ASTS, wow, that's up 5% as well. ASTS hitting all-time highs right now. App loving that stock. Goodness gracious, bro. Decimated. This is a high fly. It was at 430 on June 5th. That was right before S&P. Now it's at 334. I don't understand this company that much. I know they're in the advertising tech space, but I know they've been a very high flyer. They were the best performing stock last year. Out of everything, they were the best performing stock. And this year has just been the opposite. This year has just been the opposite. AMD always making dough. Yes, AMD has turned from advanced money destroyer to always making dough, baby. 132.55 on AMD. We'll look at the ETFs in a second. Yeah, Tanner did pick App. That's probably going to be his worst one so far. But I have some ones that are not doing well either, like Apple. Is Apple green today? Oh, Apple, hold on. Why is Apple going green today? What's the headline on Appy? I got to give Apple a nickname now. I'm going to call it Appy. Now I care about it. I have to care about it. So Appy. What's going on with Appy? What's the headline? Apple looking to make premium price folding iPhone starting next year per CNBC. Guys, I think folding phones are the future. I think folding phones are going to enter us into a new paradigmatic understanding of how we think about the future of computing. And quite frankly, I think the idea of opening up a phone and it folding just gives you so much more screen space, because you can like open it up, and it folds. And I also think the real estate of the liquid glass on the screen gives you an understanding of these AI products, these AI applications that are now foldable. I mean, kind of feels like it's a revolutionary moment in the nature of technology right here. So Apple up 1.7%, 199.95 right here on the day. Reddit 144, by the way, I'm just kidding. But I still think Apple, from a contrarian perspective, is not going to 150. Like, that's the reason I picked it. The downside to me is around 180. If we get into an actual recession, like, yeah, 150, 160 is on the board. But realistically, the amount of money that flows into Apple, like, I've always acknowledged this argument every time Steve brings it up, even though I don't like the bull case for Apple, I acknowledge it. Like, yeah, people will still buy this stock. ETFs, 401ks, retirement accounts, they will still put money into Apple. It's just that simple. And Apple will buy back their own stock. So from that perspective, I bought it as an anchor against the very high beta portfolio that I have. and I'm not expecting much out of it, but hopefully I don't get a lot of downside as well. CoreWeave, by the way, 180. Wow. CoreWeave, all-time highs. All-time highs on Mr. CoreWeave. My goodness. So did all the money leave Circle and decide to go to CoreWeave? Like, is the money leaving Oscar and going to CoreWeave right now? I mean, this is Robinhood down 2%. Tesla, by the way, about to go red. All right, so some of these bigger names getting, so what is Palantir 138, Palantir, yeah, 139.50. I guess some of these names rotating into Apple and CoreWeave today. AppLovin down 5% right here. Goodness, this one's getting hit. This one's getting hit. Lords, thank you for the $100 super chat. DD on Circle. Thank you, Mitt. Appreciate you guys for the super chats again today. You guys really don't have to do that. It means a lot to me. We will be doing that Circle DD hopefully in 2 weeks. There's a couple people I already talked to on Twitter that want to be on the deep dive. A lot of people are volunteering to be on these deep dives, which is really cool. That's why I'm saying retail, dude, we're in this together. We're really in this together. And a bunch of people have already said, hey, I'm ready to hop on to talk about Circle. So I think this could be like a really good content series over the coming years. Like every week, if we pick one stock to just go deep on, even if it's not a stock that's super unknown, right? Like even if we pick, I don't know, like PayPal. Like I know PayPal's not like an unknown name, but like, a lot of people say it's undervalued at $70. Maybe a deep dive on PayPal just to get people up to speed on the thesis is not the worst thing in the world. Even a deep dive on NVIDIA, like all of us know NVIDIA, but a real deep dive on the merits of NVIDIA, I think is well worth it. So maybe there's a content series we can make over the long term, and we will definitely do Circle as well. So Lords, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate that as well. Amit, can you post a link for the Miami meetup? The Miami meetup is not set in stone yet. Give me about a week and a half. I think probably by July 1st, I will get most of the details ironed out. A lot of you guys who live in Miami already messaged me with a bunch of different ideas. So yeah, give me about a week, and then I think we'll have the Google Doc set up, and we will get Miami ready to go going into August. Coinbase right here, 299, S&P 597, HIMS 6228. HIMS is green on the day. Apple up about 1.6, Palantir down, AppLovin down. And then Oscar, are we still green? Oscar is still green, but it's down from where it was before. All right, cool. Not bad. Relatively green morning as we start up on this Friday. Now, this is the last week next week is the last week of Q2. So this is one of the last basically 11 to 12 trading days of Q2. And then we enter Q3. Why is Hood down? Honestly, I don't know. But it doesn't surprise me. Because I'm going to say this over and over again. This is why covered calls are not crazy on a lot of these high flyers, bro. Like the market really has to be forced to take them higher. They need a catalyst. Hood doesn't have a catalyst yet. Now, maybe the crypto event in a week will be the catalyst. But why should it randomly go up on a Friday after being up 100% year to date? There is no reason. So it might just sell off. People might take some profits. This could also reverse in an hour. But the point is the covered call kind of protects the downside here, which I don't think is the worst strategy right now. Now, would I write a covered call on Oscar? Probably not, simply because like if you just don't care about your shares getting called away, then sure, because the premiums are probably great. But it's also it's in its run right now, right? And if it has any juice, this thing's going to blow through a $24 covered call if that's what you're writing, right? But this is where you prove, hey, do we have the ability for it to run? Let me check the covered calls real quick. If I go out a month, let's go to July 25th. Yeah, the $21 call is up 24,000% right now. The beauty of the equity markets, right? So the $21 call is up 24. Oh, you guys can't see it because it's blurry. It's up 24,000%, $2.10. So if you want to write that call, you're going to get paid a lot of money today. But theoretically, if Oscar has any juice, this thing's, blowing past 22, 23. So probably wouldn't write covered calls on that. Where's Rocket Lab? Wow, Rocket Lab up 4%. So again, in Germany, it was up a lot yesterday. I don't think there was any catalyst. Did you guys see the SpaceX thing blow up? Unfortunately, one of the Starship test flights blew up pretty badly. And that was on Wednesday night. So that one was a little tough. Elon definitely wasn't the happiest about that. Here is the video right there. Elon was pretty upset at this happening. This is the second time it's happened this year, something like that. There it is. There's the explosion. Elon commented one of the technical reasons why it blew up the other day on Twitter. But yeah, that definitely It wasn't a test flight? Oh, I thought it was a test flight. Well, whatever it was, it is definitely going to be stalling the ability for SpaceX to get to Mars in the next year. This one definitely was a bad one. So it was a static fire test on the ground. All right. Well, Elon was definitely upset on Twitter the other day. But also, this is why he's Elon, because he's going to keep trying. Rocket Lab, by the way, 2915. He's going to keep trying. He's not going to let that slow him down. If he did, he wouldn't have ever built SpaceX. And if anyone's going to get it done, it's going to be Elon. So there you go. Brian Burns, thank you for the $100 super chat. Some money to buy SoFi. You guys are being really generous this morning with the super chats. I appreciate it. I'm going to have to buy SoFi now. Every time someone gives me money to buy a stock, I kind of have to do it. So here we go. How many shares can we get with $100? 5? 7? Okay, we'll get 7 shares. All right, here we go. Thank you for the super chat, Mr. Brian Burns. Let's add to the SoFi bag. There you go. There it is, 7 SoFi shares. And these options on SoFi, again, have been doing pretty well, given SoFi has been making its run. We're looking for 20. It's a $15, $20 spread. I'm at the $15. Oh, wow, they're up even more. Yeah, they're up 3%. We're up 391%. We're up about 14 grand. We need SoFi to get to 20 to be up 50 grand. We're at the long end of the call on the spread. It's 15-20. We're at 15. Now we got to get to 20. Now we got to get to 20. All right, Rocket Lab. Let me see the $30 resistance on Rocket Lab. I feel like it's not going to be more than 50,000 shares. It looks like it has some potential. Rocket Lab 30 is, 43,000 shares. 43,000 shares. And then ASTS also space, dude. It's getting a bid today. ASTS all-time highs, 47. The price of sales of ASTS is $3,299. I was looking at a chart yesterday that compared all the different price of sales just for some of these retail stocks. ASTS, because it's pre-review, 3,000 price of sales, a bit aggressive, but still, people believe in the story. People believe in the story. What do you think of Hood $100 leaps? I don't like any calls, dude. I really don't like any leaps right here. I just rather buy the stock. I don't think it's a crazy idea to have the leaps, but I also think you're going to be paying a lot of... Dude, the time to buy the leaps, again, was when it was at like 50. Buying the leaps right here is just... It could work out. It's just, you're paying a lot of premium at this point. And you might not be that protected on the downside if Hood were to get a bit of a dip. CoreWeave 184. My goodness, dude. Is anyone still in this name? Like holding it heavy? Did anyone buy it like 150? Because... this is just unbelievable, dude. I don't even know how to explain CoreWeave Circle. Like, these names are just, it's pretty incredible, dude. It's money that's finding its way. One theory that I have is people are bored. People are bored of Amazon. They're bored of Google. They're bored of, PayPal. And they're just choosing to take even more risks and go higher. And the crazy thing about this is there's still $7 trillion on the sidelines. We had money market inflows yesterday. We didn't get to talk about it because we weren't live, but total money market fund assets increased by 8.5 billion yesterday to 7.03 trillion. So still, you have money market funds that are eventually waiting to be deployed. My grab average is 450. Grab average is 450. MVP Sports says it's called a bubble. Okay, so let's do that poll. Is this a bubble or not? Our Circle, CoreWeave, all these names, high-flying names, a bubble. Bubble meaning, again, it's going to drop by 50%. That's my definition of a bubble. Rocket Lab 29, ASTS 47, PayPal 69. Do we have any other macro data today? Let me see. It's about to be 10 a.m. We had retail sales already. We had the Philly Fed Manufacturing Index that came in at -4. Market thought it would come in at 1, so that was a bit of a miss from a manufacturing perspective. Do we have consumer confidence today? I don't think so. I think we have one other thing happening at 10 a.m. We'll see if we get that data. Where's Fear and Greed? Yeah, Fear and Greed also is back at like 52. It's at neutral, right? No, it's at greed. All right, we're back at 60 on Fear and Greed. All right, so we're back at 60 there. That makes sense. Now, it's not extreme greed yet, but it is greed. The IPOs have been nuts this year. Yeah, I mean, the other thing that's really going to be interesting is like what happens with these IPOs when some of the big names go public. I mean, if an Anduril or a Stripe were to go public, I think those names. I mean, like if a Stripe goes public and it doesn't do a 3-4x, but a Circle is, it's begging the question why. And you could say valuation, but also the valuation on Circle, doesn't make that much sense. So the question then becomes, are people really just getting into high risk names that they feel are not hyped up enough? Like a Stripe and Discord, those are going to be really hyped. A Circle, I mean, not a lot of people cared about that when it went public, but now people do. And maybe that's where the capital is flowing into. AppLovin still down about 5%. CoreWeave up about 6%. Let me pull up the stock draft and let's see the results for today in terms of how everyone's ETF is doing. I think I was dead last time. I'm pretty sure I was dead last. I think Tanner was 4th. And then Matt's going to heavily be in the lead because of Oscar now as well. I mean, that one is doing very well for him. All right, so I'm down negative 0.25 all time. Steve's up 0.25. Tanner's down negative 0.4. Okay, so AppLovin's making Tanner go 5th. I'm 4th. Chris is 3rd. Steve is 2nd. Chris is down 0.15. Matt's up 7.4%. Oscar, baby. Oscar helped. Oscar helped, up 7.46% right here on the day. So there you go. Well, his portfolio up 7.46%, but Oscar's up 41% since he bought it. Goodness gracious. Goodness freaking gracious. CoreWeave right here, 180.7. That's up 6.3. That's up 6.3. Triple V, $400 super chat. Buy JetBlue. JBLU 41. Okay, so JetBlue is shorted heavily. I didn't know he was into this one. JetBlue 415. Yeah, I mean, look, this one's been short, what, 20%? How much? What's the short float on JetBlue? I think we talked about this a while ago, JetBlue. We were looking at it with the airlines because we were trying to analyze the oil prices impacts on the airlines. JetBlue is down, short. Okay, so short float is 19%. That is pretty aggressive. Is anyone in this name? 19%. The airlines haven't really had a massive run this year. Oscar has a lot of short interest. Yeah, Oscar shorted 11%. I mean, dude, I don't know if JetBlue has the momentum to do what an Oscar has done, but it's definitely shorted like crazy. And a lot of him still 35%, right? So all these names are still shorted pretty aggressively. So, I mean, that could be causing it as well. All right, I guess we gotta buy some freaking JetBlue. If Mr. Triple V says JetBlue is the name that we have to look at. The thing about JetBlue is I think that the merger, or that they are a merger candidate if they actually if they end up getting bought out by one of the bigger airlines. But the question becomes, how could that play out? Smart guy, I think the merger will happen soon. But who do you think buys them out? Like, is it United that would buy them out? Or is it like a freaking, Southwest? How their market cap is? Yeah, dude, the market cap's $2 billion. It's too cheap. Check the charts. I mean, it is similar to Oscar in the fact that Oscar was basically $2-3 billion before it had its run. Now Oscar's doing it based on more momentum versus acquisition rumors, even though I think Oscar would be a great acquisition target for like a UNH or something. Circle, by the way, up 12%. Oscar back at 2160. Robinhood down about 2.4%. JetBlue, I feel like easily could be taken out by United. United right here, $25 billion market cap. JetBlue's at $1.5 billion. United's up about 1.05. And I feel like consolidation in the industry wouldn't be crazy to see. AMD up about 4.3%, 132 on AMD. All right, folks, I'm going to buy 100 shares of JetBlue for that Triple V super chat. There you go. I'm in. 420 is my price on JetBlue. I'm literally buying it just because Triple V gave a $400 super chat for JetBlue. But I mean, maybe it deserves a deep dive, bro. Maybe it deserves a deep dive. Maybe JetBlue deserves $2 billion market cap, 20% short. And there's probably a reason why it's down this much, but you would imagine that JetBlue, I mean, probably shouldn't be worth only $2 billion. So we can do a deep dive into that one over the coming weeks as well. Dude, ASTS 48, my freaking goodness. This thing is not stopping. I mean, it looks like it wants to go for 50. Let me check 49 resistance. It looks like it wants to go for freaking 50. SoFi did have a partnership with Benzinga today. Benzinga, they announced a new partnership to power next generation investment research. I think that's like kind of their AI notification thing. They're partnering with Benzinga on that, so that's good for SoFi. 49 has 3,000 shares for ASTS. I could easily see that go above 49. I could see that play out. And then 50, is there any wall at 50? 50 right here. 24,000 shares. Okay. Which is not too crazy either. Martin Skrelly is triple V. Dude, Skrelly's short has just not worked on these quantum names. They just keep freaking pumping. And that's the thing. If you want a short circle, be my guest. But like, what if you're wrong? Or what if you're right? But it's just, it doesn't matter because freaking, you know, circle continues to pump, even if it's overvalued here. So I wonder if he calls it quits at one point and just takes the L. But as of now, it feels like he wants to keep doubling down. What happened to APLD? You know, quite frankly, this one was all the hot news over the past 2 weeks. And a lot of people got stuck buying this at 13, 14, 15. They didn't know what the hell they were buying. They were just buying it for the hell of it. I mean, that's the thing about chasing, right? It's like when you chase, you have to be chasing when it's in the uptrend, not when it's topping out. And the problem here is no one really knows when it, like, is Oscar topping out at 22? I don't know. But what if it is? And you're buying it at 21.50 and then it goes all the way back down to 70. Like, that's the hard part with chasing. Unless you are an expert on TA and timing and all that stuff, no one really knows when it's a circle topping out at 227. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. So APLD, I think, is just the product of a lot of people got caught up in the hype of it. The CoreWeave deal that they have is really good. It's a great deal compared to their market cap. The revenue they're going to bring in from that is 3 times more than their market cap. So it makes sense, but that doesn't mean that it has to go from 1 to 20 if it already went from 2 to 10. And I think that's the broader problem there with CoreWeave, or with a name that's running like CoreWeave that currently is running right now. CoreWeave right here, 181 on the day. No S&P inclusions today. The next time we do that is in September. So no big names for S&P inclusion. APLD is short. It's about 25% short. So that one definitely has a squeeze potential as well. But I think it also did squeeze already. And now the shorts are kind of doubling down as well. Where's Archer? Archer, we haven't looked at that one. Archer, that one's still down after the convertible note, but still green for the day. Yeah, those ASTS puts, if anyone sold those 33 puts we were looking at last week, I mean, it looks like you're going to be relatively safe for now. That's the other thing. I mean, that's, you know, if you don't want to buy a stock because you think it's too expensive, selling a put that is relatively conservative or against the name, that's another way to still make money off it. Like if Oscar, you know, if you don't want to buy it at 21, but if you sell a put at 17, you can still make some premium off the name, even if you're not in the name. Because what if the name keeps going up, you just collect the premium and you move on. Bank of America right here is green. TSSI, I know a lot of you guys have been thinking about this one. This one's a bit more of a small cap. That one's up about 7.5%. I believe they are involved in the semiconductor GPU supply chain. I don't know exactly what they do, but they're part of that entire ecosystem. If I'm not wrong, they're the supplier for Dell. I could be wrong on this, but I think they're the supplier for Dell on their servers. So that one getting some love today. And then SMCI right here, up about 3.4% as well. I am not in VG. Chris and Matt are in VG. A lot of you guys are in VG. I just never ended up buying it. But I think the thesis on that is very sound. ASTS has become a 15x for my leaps. My goodness, bro. My freaking goodness. ASTS up 10% on the day. I mean, how much is this up year over date? Year to date, ASTS is up 100. Holy crap. I didn't actually know this, dude. I thought it was up like 50%. This is up 130. Yeah, I just wouldn't be buying here, guys. I would not be buying this right here. Like, at this point, if you missed it, you kind of missed it. It is what it is. I'm not taking a chance up 125% year to date. I think there's other opportunities. I would rather buy NVIDIA, especially because they're pre-revenue. Now, granted, that doesn't mean that the stock cannot get even higher because the momentum is high. They signed that Vodafone deal in India last week. Obviously, a lot of bullish catalysts, but yeah, I'm just not taking a chance at these levels. It's up over 100% this month. Yeah, dude, it's like, Chris's spreads must be printing right now. I think Chris's spread target was 50, bro, by like 2027 or something. Hey, he's about to get there. Chris sat down. Chris, this was like 4 weeks ago before we did the ASTS deep dive. Chris, Matt, myself, and Steve, we sat down on a Zoom call because we have these like Monday Zoom calls. And he laid out ASTS to us. I think it was at 25 at the time. And all three of us were like, all three of us were like, we don't know, Chris. And he was just like, guys, I'm telling you, like, there's something here. All three of us were like, well, I don't know. And, well, he ended up being right. So there you go. People like to dog on Chris for getting out of Palantir early, but like he's had multiple names ever since Palantir that have done phenomenal. Like this guy, he knows how to pick stocks. That doesn't mean he's going to get every one of them right, but he is, he's done this for like 30 years at this point. He's been a student of the game. He's had his fair share of losses, but he really does like to see when there's an opportunity that is mismatched against valuation. And obviously, a little bit of luck is involved as well, but like. The one thing that he recognized that I should have taken it more seriously on, that I'm going to take more seriously now whenever I look at a new stock, is the cult. One of the things he said on that Zoom call was, guys, Space Mob is different. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, these guys, they're like replacing their name with like an A emoji on Twitter. Like all of them do it. It's like a different type of cult. And I didn't really get it at the time, but like once I did the deep dive, I understood how serious these guys were. And you kind of just don't fade a community like that. And a community is that aggressive with their due diligence. It's because they really do believe, and people are just not going to spend that much collective time in their lives. We've seen this with Palantir, right? We spend literally hundreds of years combined of our lives, and if you count up the amount of hours we spent analyzing this stock, and usually, that ends up working out. Where's Tessie? Is Tessie still down on the day? Tesla, yeah, wow, Tesla. Talk about a reversal, 330 to 321. All right, so at least for today, a little bit of the selling news. ASTS is not profitable. There's no revenue. Yes, there's a lot of conventional red flags, but still, there is a thesis. If you listen to our deep dive, you can hear the thesis more in depth. Okay, where's the 10-year? How's the 10-year doing today? Bond market, 10 years up a little bit, 4.421. We haven't really heard the bond market scream for the past couple of weeks. That's because the 20-year bond auction and the 10-year bond auction we did was really good. I don't think we talked about it last week because we had so much news, but the 20-year bond auction came in below 5%, which was really good because the market thought it would be like 5.04. It came in at 4.93. And last time when the S&P fell 2%, it came in at 5.1. So we actually had a really decent bond auction, which has calmed down the broader markets as well. Corey right here, 181 ASTS, trying to get to 49. It got to 48.94 on the day. Are we buying JetBlue? I just bought it because Triple V gave a super chat for it. I don't know enough about it. I do know it's shorted. I mean, we just saw right now it's shorted 20%. But this one has been in a downtrend and stuck at $4 for like a year. So I don't really know if there's a fundamental thesis. I literally just bought it on the spot for fun. But there is no cult for JetBlue. That's for sure. There is no cult. There is no community. This is just one of those names that kind of looks like an acquisition target. I think that's why Triple V likes this. I mean, $1.5 billion market cap, maybe United, maybe Southwest take them out. But some of these names that actually have real communities behind them, those are the ones that, you can tend to see a little bit bigger of a move. And then again, Oscar, big community still around it. And the community is growing more and more and more. 2185. It's up 16% right now. Oh, we didn't talk about this. This whole X adding stock trading and stuff. Guys, I think that's a nothing burger. I really think that's a nothing burger. So Twitter is adding stock trading to their platform. I'm not even the slightest worried about it in the context of Robinhood. A very simple answer. To build a brokerage, you need a lot of trust and you need an amazing user experience. And I think X will get some people to buy stocks on the platform. I think they will, and it'll be awesome. But the idea that they're going to replicate Robinhood's user experience The idea that they're going to give people 1% from leaving Schwab to come to Robinhood. So they're going to give you 1% to leave Schwab or Fidelity to come to X. Like, it's just not happening. Like, it's just a joke. It's not happening. And then the idea that they're going to make trading stocks as easy and exciting and, options, but Robinhood makes like less than 2 cents every time someone trades a stock. They make 50 cents every time someone trades an option. So the idea that X is going to make any meaningful money off of it, unless they incorporate in the options market, which is not easy to make an options chain that is highly liquid and that gets, a good user experience to get people to know what they're doing when they're trading, selling puts, selling calls, buying calls, etc. It's just not easy to do. They could do it, and I think it's possible, but online brokerages have failed so many times in the past because you have to get the user experience right. And I don't know they're going to easily get that done. So look, I hope they do it. It's just more retail participation in the markets, which is good. Oscar at 22 right now, but I don't even think it's the slightest of threat for Robinhood. Or will there be some percentage of the population that instead of going to Robinhood, they trade on X? Sure. But we're talking about a pretty sophisticated brokerage that has an amazing user experience that I don't know if they can easily be replicated. On top of that, X already has a lot of issues in and of itself, like bots and all this random stuff. Like, for them to unveil a brokerage where there's trust and safety and you feel comfortable depositing your money into, again, it's just not easy. It's just not easy. I think they will pull it off. I don't know if that is a bear case for Robinhood at all. And quite frankly, if Robinhood gives us a dip because of X starting stock trading, I mean, give me that dip any day of the week. I've been wanting to buy Robinhood below 70 again. So if they do that, that won't be the worst thing in the world. Maybe Elon buys out Hood. I don't think Elon can afford a $70 billion company at this point. Remember, X doesn't make money, guys. We have to remember this. As much as I love X, I'm on the platform all day. I use it religiously. Like, they don't make money. They had to get acquired by XAI just to be able to break even, to give their investors shares of XAI, because Elon knew that if you bought X in 2022 or you helped him buy X with that $44 billion buyout, you were not going to make any money. Like, the advertisers are not really there. The premium subscriptions are not enough. They don't have billions of users like TikTok or Instagram. So they had to merge with XAI, which makes sense because all their data is going to be good for Grok. And XAI shares are going to be way more valuable than X shares. But ultimately, they have some structural problems that they have to figure out in order for this to be a money printer for them. Okay, so that's true. Europeans, right? People outside of the United States that have access to a lot of really good brokerages. I do agree. There is an argument that people in Europe and Asia and Africa that use X, like, they would be able to start trading more heavily. The question just becomes, is the user experience the best as well? Grab is sort of lame. I can't disagree. Grab has been lame. Look, here's my thing, dude. Here's my thing for everyone that is upset that Grab's not moving, but Oscar is. Sell and leave, right? It's really that simple. You do not have to be in a name if you want to be in a different name. If you don't believe in the Grab thesis anymore because it's not moving and Oscar's moving, then you sell. You get out of it. Like, this is the easiest. The beautiful thing about the stock market is if you're taking a little bit of a loss right here, you can sell, tax loss harvest that, go get into Oscar, go ride it from 22 to 25, make all your money back and then some, and move on with your life. If you want to be part of the thesis for the long term because you think there's a thesis, then you hold on. But this is where it tests your conviction, right? And also, I mean, this is just the broad truth, right? If you bought Grab because I like Grab, and Grab's not moving and Oscar's moving, and as a result, you think Grab is shitty, then the borrowing of conviction here, this is where there's an issue, right? Like, if you borrow someone's conviction, whether it's myself or Chris or some random account you see on Twitter that got 1 million views on some deep dive they did on a stock, and so therefore you think it's going to the moon because that random account on Twitter seems like they know everything they're talking about, you are borrowing conviction. And the pain with borrowing conviction is that it's not yours. I mean, and I'll just openly admit, with Rocket Lab, I have fully borrowed conviction from Matt because I trust Matt on this, and I think it's going to do well, and thankfully it has done well. Now, granted, I borrowed his conviction at 22, not at $4. I didn't take the chance at $4. And Matt went through some pain for a year while that stock was down at 4. But if I had borrowed his conviction at 4 and been with him during that time, I would be up 6x on Rocket Lab. But I didn't, right? So it's one of those things where if Grab pumps up to $7-8, a lot of people are going to start buying it at that range, but it's not doing it right now. It's staying flat. And this is where you have to ask yourself, do you have conviction? And for me, could I be wrong on it? Sure, I could be, but also I have enough conviction in my belief on the fundamentals. And also, I've been through this with Hood and Palantir, where the stock is stuck at $8-7, and you just have to stay with it and believe there's a thesis, and ultimately keep going from there. So it's just that simple. If you don't believe in it, then you don't believe in it. It's not really complicated. You get out. And the question just becomes, if you go and you chase Oscar today, chasing it at 22.30 right here, is that a better move than being stuck in a name that has not moved? I don't know. No one knows. We're going to find out. If Oscar pumps to 30, then yes, it's a better move. If not, then it's, maybe it's not. But it's that stage of the market where realistically, when you see all these high flyers, you just have to ask yourself, do you have the conviction to stay locked into what you're staying in right now? Mid is politely saying, get that out. Yeah, pretty much, bro. If you don't have conviction, get out. That's it. I'm trying to be politically correct about this, but this is where no crying in the casino makes sense, right? When Chamath says it, it's because he's scammed people and he's saying, hey, I scammed you, but no crying because I scammed you. When I'm saying no crying in this casino, I'm saying, hey, if you have a long-term thesis, you stay in. If you don't, then you don't cry, you get out. You don't complain about it, you leave, you move on, right? So that's where the term actually makes sense here. Why is Amazon stuck at 210? I couldn't tell you because it was at 220 last week. But again, if you're going to sell your Amazon to go chase Oscar, this is my point, right? Amazon has moved this year, but it hasn't really been a big mover. Oscar, Circle, CoreWeave, they've moved way better than Amazon. Do you get out of your Amazon and chase those three names? I don't know if that's the best decision. But we're getting into the point of the market where some people are going to start doing that because they're just tired of, staying flat in something that's not moving. Where's Hims? Where's Hims? Hims right here. Wow, Hims is moving today, 4%. We've had so many moves, we haven't even looked at Hims. Hims right here, 63.50. It's nicely moving on the day as well. Why is Hood dropping? I have no clue, but Hood is taking a little bit of a downturn, down 3%. Honestly, bro, if they give us Hood below 70 again, I would be ecstatic. So I wouldn't mind if we get there. My grab buy at this point would be probably below 450. That's where I'd buy. Again, I have a lot of it. So when everyone says, are you buying the dip? It's like, dude, I bought the dip all year. I have a lot. My average is 450. If it goes below 450, then I will buy again. But I have so much grab, Robinhood won't let me buy more options on grab. And I've messaged them. I was like, guys, can you please get rid of this stupid contract limit because I want to buy more. They're like, no, it's for your safety. I'm like, yeah, but still, it's what, let me be the judge of my safety. They're like, no, we can't do it. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I am loaded up the ass on this one. And the only time I'll buy more stock is if we actually get below 450. But we got to see. Where is Chime? That one pumped on IPO. Oof, that one, 31.38 from 45. That one actually going reverse with SoFi. SoFi's been doing really well. Chime's been down a lot since the top of the IPO. And obviously, I think SoFi's the better buy. But SoFi right here at 14 or 15.29. I have these 7.5 $10 call debit spreads on Grab for 2027, January 2027. So again, my simple thing is here, if Grab is still at $5 by the end of the year, I will turn those options into stock because I will not want to risk it unless I think there's a really big catalyst coming up in the first half of 2026. The obvious catalyst for all of us is that they raised $1.5 billion. What are they going to do with it? And look, if they don't do anything with their money for the next year and a half, then this is a management team that probably doesn't know what they're doing. If they're going to raise this much money, have 45% of the market cap trade at cash, that means Howard Marks was wrong, Ray Dalio was wrong. All these guys are wrong if in a year from now, Grab is still at 460 and they haven't done anything with their cash. I would tend to believe the most oversubscribed convertible note offering in Southeast Asia by multiples of what it was introduced means that the investors, the credit investors, gave them the money because they know they're about to do something with it. That's like my gut assumption. And if I'm wrong about that, I'll be wrong. But you just can't time when you think they're going to make a move. And eventually you have to see how this ends up playing out. I have Grab shares, yes, but I have a lot more options than Grab shares. So I'll only buy them if it goes below my average of 450. Paul, thanks for the 11 super chat. Amit, as an investor in private companies, what are your thoughts on Destiny XYZ? They have bought shares off of employees of 22 unicorns and added this to a fund. Is it interesting? I've heard of this fund. I don't like it. I don't like any of the venture funds that amalgamate shares from employees inside of like an ETF. So I personally wouldn't buy it. I've heard about them since January. I really don't like it. Like if you want to be in a startup, you got to get through an SPV, you got to get on the cap table, or you have to buy private shares yourself from a myriad of platforms. We've talked about so many of them. Hive is the biggest one that gives you access to it. I really like the ARK Venture Fund. I don't like it. A lot of people want to get access to Figure, so they're going through ARK's Venture Fund. Yeah, but ARK's Venture Fund has a lot of other shit in it besides Figure. And what if they decide to sell Figure early? What if they decide to rebalance? Like if you want to be in Figure or Discord or Anduril, you have to get into those actual companies. And again, if you're an accredited investor, it's not hard. It's actually very easy. You're going to have to pay a premium, but if you really want to get in, it's not hard to get in. So these ETFs that appeal to retail by getting a bucket of these stocks that are private, I've never liked it. Especially because you don't have proper disclosures either. Like if you get onto some of these other startups, they actually give you a data room. You can actually look at some of their revenue projections, all this stuff. Like ARK's not going to give you any of that because it's privately managed by Cathie Wood. So I personally have not been a big fan of those. CoreWeave right here at 144, ABCL down about 1.3%. Meta and Google also down about 1/3% on the day. Dens, thank you for the 20 super chat. Cheers for supporting a Singaporean stock. Also, thanks for you to bringing Adam a month back. I was inspired to start selling options and it's currently supplementing my income beautifully. Dude, that's awesome. I love when people start selling options and they start seeing a bit of income from it. It's pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. Adam's been making a killing off of it. I've been doing pretty well this year off selling options. It really is to an extent supplementing your income, especially if you have a bit of a larger portfolio, a couple $100,000, you can start making, anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month if you do it even conservatively. So very nice to see. And look, I'll be in Singapore next year. I'm definitely coming. And if freaking Grab is 460 when I come to Singapore by July of next year, I'm going to the headquarters myself. And I will give them a very angry worded letter about shareholder returns. And maybe that letter can get them to get the stock to go up. So I will be in Singapore next year and we'll see what happens with Grab. Either Grab's going to be at like $10 next year, or it's going to be stuck at $5. I don't think there's that much of an in-between, which is the fun part, right? This is the fun. This is the fun part about the story. Whenever you're part of a new stock and you're part of a new journey, the fun part about the story is you could be wrong. Like there's no risk. There's no real fun. If you're like, we all probably know NVIDIA, Amazon, Google, Meta, they're going to be good over the next 5 years, right? These companies are not going anywhere. They're not going to go up 3-4x, but they're definitely not going to go down 80%. Grab could go, I don't think they're going to go bankrupt because they have too much cash, but theoretically, right? It could be a dud or it could be a massive winner, but I don't think there's that much of an in-between. Robinhood, by the way, down about 3%. And that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it fun. Now, the rest of the market's going red right here because the S&P is going red. Is there any headline? S&P red, Robinhood red, Tesla red. What are some of these reds? 1030 slam. We haven't had 1030 slam for a while. Let me see if there's any headlines. We haven't even talked about Iran, Israel yet today because we do have some updates there. But let me see if there's a specific headline right now. Iranian foreign minister arrives at Geneva venue for talks with European counterparts. Wow. Okay, so we just got that update. Iranian foreign minister arrives at Geneva venue for talks with European counterparts. That's actually kind of bullish. If Iran's talking to Europe, maybe they're trying to find a way to negotiate what a ceasefire looks like. That's not really bearish, in my opinion. Where's Palantir? Palantir 137. Palantir is down as well. AMD, is that one still green? That was at 132. AMD, yeah, 129. Yeah, pretty much everything across the board, guys. Remember, today's quad witching. They got trillions of dollars that are going to expire in the next 5 hours of options. And you have market makers that want to position themselves. Tesla, if you bought at 330 this morning, sorry, 318. There you go. So that one's getting hit as well. Circle's still holding up and Oscar's still holding up, but you got a lot of options that are expiring today that could be affecting the broader markets. Oscar right here is down from 2250 to 2191, and Circle still up 12%. SoFi as well. You got a red candle from 1516 to 1534. HIMS down below 62. This was at 6350 literally 3 minutes ago. 6193. There you go. Evan says, I wonder if the market is like something is happening. It's happening this weekend and they want to de-risk. Well, okay. So Trump, okay. So I guess we should talk about the Iran-Israel stuff now. So Trump said, or rather the Wall Street Journal said yesterday in their reporting that that Trump is going to make his decision within the next 2 weeks. Trump is going to make his decision in the next 2 weeks on if he wants to strike Iran or not. And Trump then tweeted that the Wall Street Journal has no idea what I want to do with Iran. But nonetheless, he did like that's what the Wall Street Journal reported. The question is going to be, hey, is that accurate, right? Is that accurate that in the next 2 weeks he's going to make his decision? I was talking to Farzad yesterday, and Farzad, he is Persian. He has family back in Iran. And he said, based on what his father was telling him, who has been studying Iranian foreign politics for years now, that the regime change is definitely happening. His perspective is, hey, a regime change is absolutely going to take place. And if a regime change does happen, the question is, does the U.S. and Israel together get rid of the supreme leader right now? And do they install someone else? Or do they get rid of the supreme leader and then do they inspire the Iranian people to revolt? That's the broader question. And, you know, it's not really easy to just inspire people to revolt, right? That's not just like something that could happen as easily. They could take out the supreme leader easily, but, you know, the question is what uprise do you want to have or do you want to cause if that does happen? So that's one thing that Farzad was saying yesterday. The other thing that Farzad was talking about, I'll see if I can get him on the channel eventually to talk about this, because again, he's not an expert in this stuff, but he is from Iran, so he has a little bit of context here. One thing I asked him was like, hey, do you legitimately think that people want this? Do people want the regime to be gone? And he said unequivocally, people are done with this regime and they are freaking tired of it. And like people are ready to just move on, and people are ready to finally have some level of new leadership. I asked him about like women and like, are they taking off the hijab? He's like, dude, so many women are taking off the hijab because now the religious police, like if they catch you without the hijab, they just beat you up. But if thousands and thousands of women are walking around without the hijab, you can't just like round up all these women and beat them up. So he's like, it's still pretty bad in terms of if you get caught, but there's so much more of an uprising from people that are ready to just like be done with all this shit. Now, granted, that sounds fine in theory, but at the end of the day, we're talking about a regime change, an uprise, an entire new political system. Like that's just not easy to bring into a new society. And if the United States wants to bring that into Iran and they want to install it themselves, we're talking about Iraq 2.0. We're talking about Iraq 2.0 to an extent. If we go in boots on the ground and try to legitimately install a new leader, I mean, it's not that hard to get rid of the current one, but to install a new one and to not have a power vacuum, Oscar, by the way, back up to 22, where someone takes power who's just as bad as the current supreme leader, it's just unlikely, given what we've seen that has happened in Syria and Libya. So I don't know how this plays out, but it does seem like Trump is not hesitating to engage in regime change. A lot of the people that Farzad knows in Iran thinks that there's definitely going to be a regime change. The question is just when and how does it take place? And that will require an offensive strike by the USA, which means that we are technically going to be getting into it if this plays out. So that's kind of the main update that I think we have right here outside of some of the Iranian officials going into Europe. Israel did say yesterday they were going to be striking heavily on Iran again. Also, Iran tried to strike an Israeli hospital, but they missed, if I'm not wrong. So you did have that update yesterday. They did land the strike, but it missed the hospital. So fortunately that didn't create that much damage. But I mean, the fact that they were aiming for an hospital, that's, Israel sees that as a really easy green light to say, all right, if you're going to try to strike our hospitals, we're going to try to strike back. They did hit it. Okay. That makes more sense. I don't know why I thought they didn't hit it. I feel like there's so many headlines going around. It's kind of hard to see that. Okay. So that makes sense. So if they did hit it, then yeah, there you go. Israel, I mean, they're just going to use that as an easy excuse to be like, all right, if you want to hit our hospitals, then we will be fighting back. Yeah, here it is right here. Here's the picture. There you go. I mean, bro, it's going to go back and forth. And I'm sure Israel is going to try to bomb Iranian hospitals like this. At this point, this is going to become something that is not just tit for tat, unless Trump and Putin and all these people can broker some type of a mediation. But yeah, as of now, it doesn't seem like it's gonna easily take place. Okay, so those are kind of the updates there. Again, equity markets not really caring that much. I mean, I think quad witching has more of an impact on the S&P today than Iran Israel until we get more updates on that. But those are the current updates right now for what we're seeing. Okay, we do have some updates right here on Accenture. Oh, Accenture had earnings today. We didn't even look at Accenture. We forgot about that. Okay, let me go to Accenture. These guys have been crushing it with their generative AI sales. Accenture down 5%. Looks like market didn't like it. Let me see if I can get their numbers. This is pretty much the last earnings for Q1. Accenture beat by 5% on EPS, 349 versus 332. Beat by 2% on revenue, 17.72 versus 17.32 billion. So they beat on the top and the bottom. Did Trump tweet today? Let me see. Trump, he's talking about immigration again. Nothing about Iran or Israel. Okay, cool. That's what we got. So let me pull this up. I said I was going to play this in a second. This is Sam Altman talking about the whole Meta competition in regards to OpenAI. And then I think Meta introduced a new ad for glasses that I'll pull up as well. But here's Sam Altman yesterday talking about Meta competing with OpenAI.
Why would Meta think of you that competitively? Like, I obviously understand that, like, they probably just see that AI is the whole game, and like maybe that's
I
enough of the
assume it's
explanation.
just that someone that used to work at Meta said to me that, like, you know, in the rest of the world, people think of ChatGPT as a Google replacement, but in Meta, people think of ChatGPT as a Facebook replacement
because people are just spending all their time talking to
because they talk to it in a way that otherwise, and they like it more. Like
time
they
is
have
a
a better.
source and attention.
It wasn't a question about time. It was that people with this. Well, of course, there is time competition too, but that people like doom scrolling on the internet feels like it's making you worse. It may feel good in the moment, but it's making you feel worse. It's making you feel worse, a worse version of themselves. And I think that we're very proud of is when people talk about ChatGPT, they're like, actually like myself better. It's like helping me. It's like helping me accomplish my goals. I feel like it's like, this was actually one of the best, nicest compliments I ever heard about OpenAI. Just someone said it's the only tech company that has ever not felt somewhat adversarial to me. You know, you have like Google trying to like show me worse and worse search results and show me ads. I love Google. I love all these companies. I don't think this is like totally fair. You have like Meta trying to like hack my brain and get me to keep scrolling. You have Apple that made this phone that I love, but is like, you know, bombarding me with notifications and like distracting me from everything else, and I can't quit. And then you have like ChatGPT, and I feel like it's like kind of just trying to help me with whatever I ask, and that's kind of a nice thing.
Is there a way to do social that has like the interpersonal component and this energy?
A version that I'm curious about, although I don't know what this would mean, is like, could you have a feed that didn't have any default, but you could like kind of prompt it and say like, hey, I'm trying to like get fit. Can you like show me stuff that is like helpful to that? Or I'm trying to like learn more about current events. Can you like show me stuff from a neutral perspective that is not going to make me angry, but it's just like actually going to do it? And that would clearly get less minutes spent than the algorithmic feed that's like outrage baiting. But I think that'd be like a very cool version of an aligned AI helping you with the social experience that you actually want long term. I don't know. I feel like every morning, like I wake up as this like recharged person that knows what I really want in life, and that I have like such great intentions, and I can like commit to stuff for the day, and then like the day comes at me nonstop, and by like 10 p.m. I'm like, oh, I wasn't gonna drink tonight, but I'm just gonna have one glass of whiskey, and I wasn't gonna look at like TikTok, but I'm just gonna scroll for 2 minutes.
You shouldn't work so hard.
I agree with that. But like if I could be my like first thing in the morning self all the time, and if I could get technology to like do the things I wanted then, I think that'd be great.
I think it's an argument, though. I think it's a real argument. It's an argument, even if you don't love Sam Altman. It's an argument that Meta could be scared of OpenAI being a ChatGPT or being a Facebook replacement, because again, Facebook is one of the things that's not as pleasurable to engage in, right? It kind of just makes you feel worse about life many times. And that's why Zuckerberg reportedly, again, tried to buy Ilia's startup. He was the OpenAI co-founder for $32 billion. It's called Super Safe Intelligence. No one really knows exactly what it does. They don't even have a product yet. But he tried to buy a product. He tried to buy a company that's worth $32 billion that doesn't even have a product, simply because of the threat that theoretically Altman could be thinking is real about people replacing their time and attention on Facebook or social media in general with ChatGPT. And quite frankly, when do we get to the point where we have algorithmic feeds? As Altman said, when do we get to the point where instead of going on Instagram and like seeing this feed that Facebook comes up with, when I go to a new social media app and I just type in, I want to see puppies, and then puppies pop up, and then there's a feed of puppies, right? Like that's a world I think could happen, because people might not want to be fed something through an algorithm. They might want to prompt engineer their social experience. And I don't think that's that crazy to see playing out. So that is definitely something that, you know, theoretically could be an effect on Meta. Here's Elon yesterday as well at the startup school at YC talking about NVIDIA GPUs. TLDR, they're going to be buying a lot more.
I think these general principles of first principle thinking apply to software and hardware, apply to anything really. I'm just using kind of a hardware example of how we were told something is impossible, but once we broke it down into the constituent elements of we need a building, we need power, we need cooling, we need power smoothing, and then we could solve those constituent elements. But it was, and then we just ran the networking operation to do all the cabling, everything, in 4 shifts, 24/7, and I was like sleeping in the data center and also doing cabling myself. And there were a lot of other issues to solve. Nobody had done a training run with 100,000 H100s training coherently last year. Maybe it's been done this year. I don't know, but and then we ended up doubling that to 200,000, and so now we've got 150,000 H100s, 50K H200s, and 30K GB200s in the Memphis training center, and we're about to bring 110,000 GB200s online at a second data center, also in the Memphis area.
Is it your view that pre-training still working, and the scaling laws still hold, and whoever wins this race will have basically the biggest, smartest possible model that you could distill?
Well, there's other various elements that beside competitiveness for large AI. There's for sure the talent of the people matter. The scale of the hardware matters, and how well you're able to bring that hardware to bear. So you can't just order a whole bunch of GPUs and you can't just plug them in. So you've got to get a lot of GPUs and have them train coherently and stably. Then it's like, what unique access to data do you have? I guess distribution matters to some degree as well. Like, how do people get exposed to your AI? Those are critical factors for if it's going to be like a large foundation model that's competitive.
So you got 110,000 NVIDIA GPUs that are going to be started up in Memphis. Again, XAI has the largest cluster of GPUs currently right now, even larger than OpenAI, and they were able to get priority over OpenAI from NVIDIA. Robin right here, 7664, Rocket Lab 2888. But the question just becomes, will they be able to ultimately scale that and then build that beyond ChatGPT? Because although OpenAI doesn't have as many GPUs, like ChatGPT is being used way more than XAI, way more than Grok. And so I would imagine that whatever new version of ChatGPT comes out is going to have advanced levels of distribution. Oscar right here, still at 22. That's up 17%. NVIDIA, are we at 145? NVIDIA also down on the day. Everything kind of catching a little bit of that red candle. Palantir 138, Grab 459, SoFi 1525, Hoodie 76. Rocket Lab kind of holding its green after being up 5% of the day, but Tessie, not really. That one's down 1%. CoreWeave still holding on as well. 182. 182. Is Coinbase at 310? Coinbase is at 303. Yeah, pretty much everything. Pretty much everything pumped around 930. And now you're getting a little bit of a dump. We really haven't had a negative 2% day on the S&P in a long time, right? Like last time I think was in May. And it was like 1.5%. That was on the bond auction day, but it was a very simple reversal. And then it moved on. Moody's, I think, brought us down 1% after hours. That was like in early May. But even that didn't hold up. I mean, it's been a pretty decent 2 months, which is why I think everyone's thinking, all right, when's the dip, right? When is the real 5% downturn? And then you see Oscar up 17%. You see Circle up 650%. You're like, all right, maybe it's not coming soon. Circle right here, 229 on the day. 79% of you, by the way, in that poll said some of these high-flying names are a bubble. So about 80% of you. Okay, where's that Meta glasses at? We said we were going to watch that. Let me see. Let's pull that up. Meta glasses. Okay, this is the new ad. I'm gonna do it without the audio because unfortunately the audio is probably gonna get flagged by YouTube. Let's play it. So there it is. There's the ad right there. They've got some football players. There's Oakley. They're partnering with Oakley here. Oakley and Meta. There's the glasses themselves. There's a bunch of people wearing it, looking cool. There's J.R. Smith. He's a basketball player. He's talking to his Ray-Ban or his glasses. Is that Wiz Khalifa? No, it's not Wiz Khalifa. It's Wiz Khalifa. It's a rapper. I don't know who that is. Oh, and Mbappe. Yeah, Mbappe's in this. Yeah, there he is right there. So you're talking to the glasses and it's responding to you. Performance AI glasses. This is going to change everything. Patrick Mahomes is there. Oakley and Meta. All right, dude. Look, here's my thing. You guys know my thoughts on glasses. I really don't think it's a good form factor, and I don't think it's going to take off. I'm just not a believer in it. I don't think all of us are going to wear glasses. AI-powered glasses that we're going to talk to every day. If it does happen, it's a big thing for AI because it's going to be a whole new form factor. So there's going to be tons of applications, tons of hardware, tons of AI software, yada, yada. I just don't know. I really don't believe in it, dude. I really don't believe in it. I don't think it. Yes, I wear glasses to see, but do I wear glasses to talk to them, to tell them about my appointments and my schedule? No, I don't know if that's the thing. I know I sound so boomerish right here, but still. I wear glasses to see, not to talk to my glasses to tell me about the temperature and the weather or something. I don't know. I don't feel it. Nonetheless, it could take off. And, maybe Google, by the way, about to go below 170. Maybe people are so bored of the phone that they try out a new form factor, but I think it's solving a problem that doesn't exist. What problem actually are the glasses solving? Because to me, they're not solving a single problem. To me, it's just a new way to think about computing. It's not an actual problem. The iPhone legitimately solved real problems. We needed a supercomputer in our hands that we could use for email and surfing the web and all this stuff. We don't need the glasses, in my opinion. I really don't see what the use case is. I see the use case. I don't see what the replacement necessity is for your phone. Do you really want to be on a bus talking to your glasses versus looking down at your phone? I just don't see it. Again, I could be wrong, but I have the Meta Ray-Bans. They're amazing. Got to try them. Mine are see-through. Some people can get them with prescription. I think people will wear them. I'm not saying people won't wear them, but we have 3 billion people that use iPhones. Do we really see anywhere near 1 billion people wearing glasses, which is what it's going to take to get the critical scale? I don't see it, dude. I really don't see it. But if it does happen, I'm not bearish on it because if it happens, then that's great I'm sure GPUs will be involved. I'm sure Meta will catch a massive bid off that. Obviously, Apple's going to compete. So for the consumer, there's going to be a lot of competition. There's going to be a lot of different ways that it plays out to advance overall American industry. I just personally don't see it yet. Okay, hold on. We got some Wall Street Journal updates. Let's see for Iran, Israel. Okay, here we go. U.S. prepares action targeting allies' chip plants in China. What? Move is part of a broader export control crackdown on tech to China. U.S. seeks to revoke waivers for Samsung and TSMC that allow them to use U.S. tech in Chinese factories without case-by-case licenses. Wait, why are we doing this? What? This does not... hold on. We barely have a trade deal with these guys, and now we're going to target more. Yeah, NVIDIA's dumping, of course. Why not? Why wouldn't NVIDIA be dumping here? AMD is probably going red. AMD is very close to going red right here. TSM's probably dumping. TSM is down 2%. Why are we doing this? U.S. prepares action targeting allies' chip plants in China. Hey, am I crazy or is this stupid? We barely have a trade deal with them. The whole point of the trade deal, in my opinion, was to give them access to American chips so that we could tariff all the other industries that we needed to tariff. That was the one bargaining chip we had. No pun intended. But we really didn't have any other layers to bargain on besides our AI chips, all the semis are going red across the board. Only thing that's up is SMCI, AMD's up a little bit, Lam Research, ARM, TSM, Qualcomm, Broadcom, ASML. Oh, wow, ASML down 3%, Broadcom down 2%, NVIDIA down almost 1.5. This feels kind of weird. I don't know why we're doing this right here. Yeah, I mean, dude, if the Wall Street Journal is correct, we are literally handing it to China and Huawei and all of the people that buy from China and Huawei because they can't buy from the US. This one doesn't make any sense to me. There's got to be some more nuance here to this report. Hopefully we'll get some more details, but move is part of a broader export control crackdown on tech to China. I just feel like you do this after we get a real trade deal. And look, I'm not saying it's wrong to do this. Like, I think there's a legitimate reason to do this because obviously there's national security threats. But we need to get a trade deal done. Like, how do you feel if you're Xi Jinping, you wake up to this headline and you barely have anything set in stone on the trade deal, and now you're getting more export controls you have to deal with? Like, you probably increase your hostility. Like, this is not something I think easily is resolved. Granted, we have to see if the reporting is true, but... And also, don't we have to deal with Iran, Israel? Why are we focusing on chip stuff? Like I feel like we're all over the place. Oscar right here, 2260, that's up 20%. Meta 688, and then CoreWeave, that one's getting a bit of a red candle as well. 178 right now. Maybe this is part of the negotiation. Yeah, maybe. That's also fair. I don't know why Google's down. Google or Amazon, both of these. Wow, why is Google below 170? 169.89. I don't think there's a Google headline. Is it on the Meta glasses? Google's also working on glasses. They showed us that at the I/O event. I don't see there's any unique reason, though. By the way, Google is now the most profitable company in the world. On a trailing 12-month basis, Google has done more profit net income than Meta and Apple at $111 billion. Or sorry, Apple and Microsoft. So the most profitable company in the world is trading at the cheapest Mag 7 multiples. Okay, 10 years going up. S&P is going down. Looks like this Wall Street Journal headline is kind of causing it. S&P 594. I'm trying to see if there's anything else besides this. There's no other Iranian update other than the Geneva European talk that we discussed 20 minutes ago. We talked about the hospital bombing back and forth. Oh, Putin did say this yesterday. So Putin said, this was yesterday. It's also quad witching day, so you got to take that into account. Putin said, do not wish to discuss possibility of U.S. killing Iran's supreme leader. We once offered Iran help with air defense, but they were not interested. Our current partnership with Iran does not include any clause about defense cooperation, and Iran has not asked us about it. So Putin's argument here is, hey, we wanted to help them, but they didn't want our help, is what I'm getting from this quote. Which is kind of interesting, because why would Iran not take free money from the Russians to protect themselves? It's a little confusing there. But yeah, it seems like they are not necessarily going that route. Now the question is if China decides to supply anything to Iran, but that hasn't been the case yet. Also, Iran is the #1 export of oil to China. People don't know this, but China gets a lot of oil from Iran. So they have a geopolitical economic incentive to help Iran, but they haven't stepped up and said, hey, we're going to protect you guys. China issued rare earth mineral bans on U.S. defense companies. This chip restriction is to respond to that. Okay, so that might make sense, but I'm confused because Trump said last week the rare earth mineral magnets and ban on those coming from China is now resolved. He said we're good to go. He said we have no issues with rare earth minerals anymore. Even Lutnick, remember on CNBC for 20 minutes, he said, yeah, rare earth minerals, we're good to go. We're going to get all the magnets we need, yada, yada. So if you're doing a new chip restriction with export controls on China because of a rare earth mineral ban, that means they were lying last week. Like, just straight up, they lied. The rare earth mineral stuff is not under control at that point. I mean, you guys saw the same tweet that I saw. He said, hey, rare earth mineral are resolved. We are good to go. And then Lutnick basically echoed those statements on CNBC. So if this new chip restriction is because China is not being truthful about what they talked about in London with Lutnick, Greer, and Besant, then there's no freaking deal, bro. There's no deal. I mean, I think all of us kind of thought there was no deal when Trump was talking about Chinese students going to Harvard. I mean, that's where the markets didn't even move on the announcement last week, because everyone was like, okay, so we got 55% tariffs in exchange for people going to Harvard? No way. Like, there's no way. There's no way that's happening. So I think the broader market is just kind of confused right there. Corey right here at 180 currently right now on the day. Let's get a little bit more of an update in the macro, and then we'll keep going from there.
Come down. Here's just a few ways the Fed chair signaled that he still is worried about inflation popping back up because of tariffs.
Increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. Many companies do expect to put all or some or all of the effect of tariffs through to the next person in the chain, and ultimately to the consumer. One of our jobs is to make sure that a one-time increase in inflation doesn't turn into an inflation problem. And that, again, that will depend on the size of the effects, how long it takes for them to come in, and ultimately on keeping inflation expectations anchored.
He wants to be more confident that tariffs aren't going to spark inflation. And that was clearly, I think, the message from the Fed chair, Mike. I thought it was hawkish. He mentioned tariffs 30 times. Thank you, producer Chase Manzi, for pointing that out. It was a different message we'll hear about Governor Waller this morning, who talked to our Steve Leisman. But another sort of further hawkish data point, and I know we don't want to make too much of the stupid dots, which are the forecasts for the Fed cuts. And even Fed Chair Powell said it's a foggy kind of environment. But while they maintained the median of 2 cuts this year, 7 officials said no cuts.
Right.
And in March, it was 3 officials that said no cuts. And in December, it was 1 official that said no cuts for the year, which is telling you there's a growing concern about inflation and wanting to wait and see before cutting rates on this committee.
I think it's the baseline orientation of this committee is they want to just hold and wait and see and let a lot more shoes drop. And the way to do that is to say that you're concerned about potential inflation effects on tariffs. Yes, there's no doubt that the kind of the lean of the committee has gone toward let's do less, not more. Waller this morning, obviously very dovish and saying he even sees a window by July. It's not going to happen based on how this committee is oriented unless you get some pretty poor data. And again, even saying we'll get 2 cuts this year when in fact you might see some cosmetic headline effect on inflation in the next few months. Maybe that's not super hawkish, but in the interim it is. They want to defer any potential movement to at least September.
He also,
I mean, they're not wrong. They're going to wait until September at this point. And until we get any trade deals in the meantime, then we're probably going to have to deal with the market still having a lot of uncertainty. Google right here, I don't get why Google's down 2%. I don't see any headline for that. NVIDIA, that one makes sense. Meta down 1.3, S&P down 0.23. Okay, well, this is also, I mean, it's also quad witching, right? So we also kind of expected a ton of volatility today. Robinhood down 3%. I mean, you're getting a lot of these names that are just going to get Tessie, unfortunately, 332 to 319. Apple's kind of up on the foldable phone thing. CoreWeave is still green. AMD is holding on to 128. And then you got Circle and, Circle's up 9% right here. There is a red candle right there. Circle and Oscar that are still trying to hold on. Oscar 22.34. All right, there you go. There you go. Yes, we do have $37 trillion in debt now. We do have $37 trillion in debt. Quad witching is the simultaneous expiration of 4 types of options. Index options, ETF options, future options, and single stock options that happen on the same day. This happens 4 times a year, 3rd Friday of June, which is today, June 20th. And you got $6.5 trillion in the global capital equity markets that are leaking or that are expiring today. In terms of leaking, I see what you guys saying right here in the comments. There was a big breach yesterday in terms of passwords. Meta, Facebook, Google, all of these passwords got leaked, and it was like 16 billion. Yeah, 16 billion Apple, Facebook, Google, and other passwords were leaked. I didn't read much into this yesterday. If you just Google this, then you'll probably get the article and you can see, if there's any steps you have to take to protect your account. I don't even know how this got leaked. I haven't really dug deep into the story, but I did see the headline yesterday. So however it happened, it did happen. And yeah, not the best thing in the world. But see, the fact that they want to blame Palantir for being the evil company, and now your Google password gets leaked because of whatever the hell happened. It's like, come on, bro. It's really the social media giants that have a little bit more of a threat when it comes to all this. Why are markets dropping? Honestly, it could just be more algos right here. Obviously, quad witching, and then on top of that, that Iran news, or that China news about export controls. That's definitely not good for the semiconductors. So those could be having a negative effect on the broader market as well. All right, cool. Guys, I got to go. I have to go see Steve in New York City. I will be getting lunch with him today. He's been begging me to go to Patsy's, which is his Italian restaurant that he goes to like 2 times a week. So I will be heading there. We still will have market close. I'm going to be doing market close from a friend's apartment in New York. One of my boys who actually is a former Palantir employee. He left Palantir and he's starting his new startup. So we will have market close today, normal time 3:45. He'll probably make an appearance on the startup, and we can ask him some questions. And that's pretty much it. I was just there, dude. I'm excited for Patsy's today. Steve is like, we're gonna spend $300. I'm like, why do we spend $300 on 2 people at a restaurant? He's like, because we're ordering everything. I'm like, all right, bro. I guess I'm after 1 slice of pizza, I'm gonna be full. So I don't know how I'm gonna be able to eat all this, but I will let you guys know if it's better than Olive Garden today. So we'll do a full review. We'll definitely get some pictures of me and Steve. I'll try to take a picture while he's eating so that he has a stank face, because he always gets mad when you try to take a picture when he's eating. So we'll try to get a good picture. Word of the day. What do we got? Word of the day is hotch.
Hotch.
To fidget or shifts one's weight from one foot to the other. The actors would hotch just off stage, waiting for their cue after the therapeutic massage pins and needles made her hotch restlessly at the bus stop. To fidget or shift one's weight from one foot to the other. I feel like I've done this before many times, but there you go. That's word of the day. Please tell Steve Olive Garden is better and record his reaction. Dude, yesterday I said Metallica at the end of the stream. Oh my God, dude. That guy was like, there's no way you actually said that. I was like, yeah, I listened to Metallica. Have you listened to it? He's like, I can't believe this right now. S&P 593, hoodie, getting a hit about 3%. Palantir down about 1.28. And then the Oscars, the CoreWeaves, and the Circles of the world, they are green today. So momentum is high. Retail momentum is strong in those names. We'll see by the end of the day how those names hold up. But given they're up about 20%, it looks like they're going to hold on. And then we'll see how the rest of the market ends as we close out the day. All right, cool. That's it. I'll be back 3:45 p.m. We'll have some special guests on the show as well. We'll get to talk to them, and we will keep going from there. Thank you, everybody, for the super chats today. You guys sent a lot of super chats, like a lot of them. And so I really, really appreciate it. Thank you all for the love and support. Again, means the world. We're going to keep doing this every single day. I think we will have Palantir Weekly tonight. I know we haven't had it in 2 weeks, but I think I should be back in time for Palantir Weekly. If we don't, we'll probably do it tomorrow because it's been too many weeks without it. So if not, we'll definitely have it tomorrow night. But yeah, we'll be back for the market close as always. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. I'll see you guys later today. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.